Chapter 81. Genius 1 second. Remember love / go / little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. There are traces of a huge impact at the scene. The surrounding limbs are twisted. The body must have suffered many violent impacts. Well, what kind of method could make a person like this? And there is more than one? Officer Ma frowned. The above words were not said by him. I'm sorry I'm late. Someone threw a few thieves at the entrance of the police station like a lunatic early in the morning. Well, why is she here? The young police officer stood beside Officer Ma and whispered, Sir Ma, we dare not stop her. Bullshit! Why don't you dare to stop her? Officer Ma suddenly scolded in a low voice. The young police officer said helplessly, she said she would shout molestation, and Officer Ma frowned again, and what? And she also said, whether you believe it or not, if she really shouted, Sir Ma would peel off our skin first. Officer Ma waved his hand helplessly and walked to Ren Xiling dejectedly. He said kindly, Sister-in-law, the colleagues collecting evidence will come soon. Are you? Ren Xiling didn't even turn her head. Instead, she stared at the corpses on the ground. One of them was a young man with dyed blonde hair. There was a black snake tattoo on his bare arm. As for the others, they were still wearing school uniforms. They should be high school students. Xiao Ma, who do you think the murderer is? It's very strange. How can a normal person have such a strong hand? Well, why don't you talk? Sub-editor Rin finally turned her head to look at Officer Ma. Looking at Officer Ma's sad eyes, she suddenly said, Oh, I'll leave later. I'm just passing by on the way to work. Officer Ma took a deep breath, suddenly put his hands on Ren Xiling's shoulders, and then turned her body around forcefully. He pushed her body and shouted loudly, Get out! Before Ren Xiling could react, she had been pushed out of the car repair shop by Officer Ma. Officer Ma stood inside the cordon, looking at Ren Xiling outside the cordon, and seriously ordered his subordinates, You guys keep an eye on her. If this girl dares to come in, molest her. After molesting her, write a 20-point self-criticism report and then do 20 rounds of physical training on the playground. After that, Officer Ma angrily turned around and walked into the garage again. The young police officer looked at Ren Xiling, who was in a bad mood, and he felt even worse. He begged bitterly, Madam Ren, please don't make things difficult for us, we're just working, tut! After greeting the young police officer with the third finger of her left hand, Ren Xiling suddenly received a call. You found her? Okay, I'll go. The sacrifice was successful. After sacrificing Jonathan's soul, Boss Luo exited the third floor of the basement and found an account book that didn't look so long. He planned to study it from today onward. The teleportation range seemed to have expanded a little, and the teleportation time seemed to have become shorter, although it was very short at the beginning. But the proficiency during the teleportation could still be felt very well. When he walked back to the hall, Luo Qiu found a beige sofa made of cotton. He was stunned for a moment. A love go little say, Chu he seemed to have seen it somewhere. This sofa. He shook his head and couldn't remember it. But there was one thing he remembered very clearly. That was, this outfit was at the club counter, with its back facing him. A nun's robe? It was exactly the same as the Black Order nun he met in the Sosescu family's castle. But from the back, she was wiping the counter. Yu Yi. The woman in the nun's robe suddenly turned around. It was Miss Servant Girl of the club. Yu Yi gracefully lifted the black skirt in front of Luocio and bowed. Master, what can I do for you? Actually, it was slightly different. If the nun he met before was wearing a complete set of robes, then the one in front of him was probably magically modified, right? It must have been magically modified, right? Even if the split skirt wasn't lifted up deliberately, it could still reveal the scenery hidden by the skirt while walking. Why did you suddenly? Luocio looked at Yu Ye's outfit with confusion. This Miss Servant Girl liked to dress up, which could be seen from the time they spent together. But he didn't expect her interest to be so extensive. Because Master seemed to be interested in nuns when we were in the Sosescu family's castle. Yu Yi smiled and suddenly turned her body. The originally soft skirt naturally spread out, making the scenery better. Do you like it? Honestly, the reason why Boss Luo looked at the nun more was that the nun's posture when she took out the gun under her skirt was very cool. At the same time, he was also interested in guns because of his father, so he paid more attention to the modified revolver. Therefore, he looked at it more. Did you make it yourself? Luochio didn't intend to dampen Miss Servant Girl's enthusiasm, but delicately skipped this topic. Yes. Yu Yi gave an affirmative answer. Sure enough, it was magically modified. But, was it appropriate for a club to appear in front of customers in such a manner? Luochio smiled faintly. A woman would dress up for her lover. Although Yu Yi didn't necessarily have such thoughts, and might simply want to take care of all aspects of the club boss, but if someone could think of ways to satisfy him from these subtle aspects, why should he be stingy with his smile? He suddenly remembered where he had seen this new sofa before. I should be more free during the summer vacation. Luochio suddenly looked at Yu Yi, saying softly, "How about going to Russia with me? I've never seen such a place in my life." Okay. Along with Miss Servant Girl's smile, the bell at the door of the club rang again. About 27 or 28 years old, a man appeared at the door with hesitation and surprise. "Old Mo, I've prepared the meal. Heat it up as you see fit." Mo Hongqi woke up early, rushing the custom-made wood carvings in his workshop. Suddenly, he looked at his wife outside the door and asked, "Xiao Fei went out again?" His wife said worriedly, "That kid didn't come back that night. I was so worried. I don't know what he's doing these 2 days, leaving early and coming back late." "Old Mo, you're our kid. Have you learned bad things?" Mo Hongqi smiled. "The kid has grown up. Give him some freedom. Don't you know whether the kid you watched growing up is good or bad? Only you know." His wife gave him a stare and went to work. Of course, her kid was the kindest. At this time, Mo Xiaofei was chewing the bread energetically. These 2 days, he always stepped into the classroom punctually when it was almost time. Because before that, he was patrolling around the school. It seems that there are not many people who do bad things in the school. It's time to expand the scope of sweeping. He finished the bread in a few bites and threw away the wrapping paper in his hand. When the crumpled wrapping paper was about to fall to the ground, it suddenly shot out and finally fell into the trash can not far away. Mo Xiaofei smiled. "Let me protect this unfair society." Yen 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 PS1. Thanks to No and No, Sifang Yu Gu Jin Zhou, Heba Zixin, Kevin, Book Friend 1607071342222994, The Heavy Rain AQ, Saberhammer, Jutaoist Ting Long for their tip. PS2. Asking for votes every day equals. Chapter 82. Genius 1 second. Remember love go/little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Guiyushua walked down the street dejectedly. It wasn't even 9 in the morning, but he was the only one who had started drinking black beer. He felt so lost. You got into a very good university. Your major is also popular. This job is good. Do it well and you will have a bright future. Brother. She is a good girl. She is a housewife. One, I will treat you well. Will you be my girlfriend? Little Guo, let's invite your girlfriend to the celebration dinner tonight. Is she your girlfriend? Not bad, not bad. She is a simple girl. Is she in your company? Little Guo, I don't mean to criticize you. I am telling you because I think highly of you. This girl is not suitable for you. You are a talent in the company. You will attend more banquets in the future and have more connections. It is not good if there is no one who can match you. In the circle, men should interact more, but women should also interact with each other. Why should I learn to draw? Even if I earn money, I can save it. Clothes? No, it is enough to make up for the old ones. Change jobs? I am very happy with my current job. My colleagues at the gas station are very nice. By the way, I met one of your colleagues at the gas station today. What is his name? Are you drinking again? Don't drink too much. Your stomach is not good. This is not the way to socialize, okay? Yushua, I don't know how to dance. I don't understand a word of the people here. It is so awkward. Let's go first? Should we invite little Gua to the weekend gathering? But let me make it clear first. My tigress said it is okay to teach him, but it is better not to invite his girlfriend. Really, they are all bringing their families. Isn't it embarrassing for little Gua to come alone? TSK, that is his true love. It is none of your business. Maybe he likes country girls. He likes the taste of that country. Ha 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 ha. I am going to work. By the way, the lunchbox is ready. Remember to rest at noon. Today, it is your favorite braised eggplant. I have not liked braised eggplant for a long time. In that case, you feel that your girlfriend isn't good enough, right? This was Guayushua's first reaction from disbelief, then shock, then fear, and finally reverence. He didn't know why he would confess to a stranger, and under such strange circumstances. Maybe this guy wasn't human. Urban legends? Gods and ghosts? Guayushua had thought about it and was also worried about it. However, when he said this naturally, he did not know why, but he felt much more relaxed. No. One is very good. Guayushua shook his head. It's just that people should look forward and not stand still. What's the difference between this and not being good enough? Luochio was not very interested in the new guest. But since he was a guest of the club, he couldn't just ignore him. After returning from Romania, Boss Luo began to think about how he should completely adapt to the various guests that would appear in the future and even the source of guests. Since you feel that she can't keep up with you, why are you forcing yourself to maintain this relationship? Luochu began to do what a club owner should do. How to guide the customer. No. I still love her. Guayushua solemnly said. I promise to treat her well for the rest of my life. Luochu said indifferently, but obviously, you are also entangled in this relationship, even entangled in the original promise, aren't you? Guayushua seemed to want to say something, but he kept silent in the end. Luochu then said, if the source of entanglement is not suitable, if you become suitable as you wish, will the result be different? Suitable. Yes, if one could become more motivated, willing to improve herself, become more knowledgeable, and even become more elegant. Guayushua couldn't help imagining the ideal girlfriend in his mind. He was perplexed. Can I? Of course. Customer, isn't it because of this idea that you are willing to confide in me? What do I need to pay? First of all, you use 1 day of your time to exchange for your girlfriend to not be so boring. How about that? Only 1 day. Guayushua said inconceivably. Luochu said indifferently, if you just want her to become interested in something, it's about the same price. If it's only 1 day, I'm willing. Welcome next time. After fiercely kissing the 5 red banknotes in his hand, Brother Chong, who was called Mouse Chong, looked at Ren Xiling with a smile. Thank you. Next time you have such a good thing, remember to call me. Ren Xiling suddenly frowned. Mouse Chong, don't gamble anymore, go home more often. Mouse Chong grinned his yellow teeth. The fortune teller said, I'm lucky this year. Ren Xiling shook her head and didn't want to say more, but walked into the stairs of an old building. Climbing up the stairs of 7 floors, Sub-editor Ren pressed the doorbell of this floor without blushing or panting. Soon an old woman opened the door, looking at Ren Xiling with confusion. You are? Excuse me, is this King Kong's house? Do you know my son? Yes, I'm his friend. I need to talk to him about something. Wait, he's sleeping. You are that reporter? King Kong frowned through the security door. Obviously, he recognized this woman who could find his house. What's the matter? Where's Jiaya? Ren Xiling came straight to the point. Lin Geng overdosed and is still in intensive care. His secretary fell from the building. Now Jiaya is missing. You're the bodyguard hired by Heaven's Shadow, you should know something. Sorry, you've got the wrong person. King Kong said indifferently, as you said, I'm just an employee. You don't know even though you're her friend, let alone me, who only meets her during working hours. While saying, King Kong closed the door directly. Mom, if this woman continues to knock, you call the police and say that someone is harassing a house. Ren Xiling heard King Kong's words clearly from outside the door. He was obviously talking to her. Subeditor Ren was also hot-tempered when she was young. In recent years, she had become a good mother. But now, she couldn't stand the indifference of being rejected at the door. She was so angry that her eyes widened. Tut, I don't believe that you don't go downstairs and find a woman if you don't have a physiological need. F***CK. Subeditor Ren made a phone call directly. Hello, boss? I'm on leave today. Why? Do you want to see my period? What, you don't believe this reason? Do you believe that I'll send the sanitary pad to your house? I believe that, yin PS. I also believe that. Reading big official will vote for me, right? Chapter 83. Genius remembers love go little in 1 second? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. Master number 9, don't you want to go in? There was no other way. Black Soul number 9 had been wandering outside the antique shop for several days. Love go little say kubut in Taeyinzi's eyes, it was meaningless. Today, the Onyx Soul newbie finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Ignoring the cold attitude of the Onyx Soul big boss, he was prepared to ask him properly. You've been following me for several days. Black Soul number 9 suddenly looked at Taeyinzi. Well, it was indeed only a few days. You can go to find a customer by yourself. Black Soul number 9 said again. Taeyinzi gave a start. Although he was reluctant to leave, he was secretly happy. However, there were so many people in Dada City. In order to avoid the embarrassment like the first time when he asked for credit from the boss, he had to make a long-term plan. Thinking of this, Taeyinzi walked towards the antique shop called Guyuzhai. Unexpectedly, he was frightened by the voice of Black Soul number 9 and stopped after taking 2 steps. What are you going to do? Taeyinzi turned around. Master number 9, I'm going to go in. Well, I'll go to other places to have a look. Taeyinzi cursed in his heart. Bitch is so pretentious. Why didn't you tell me earlier that this is your territory? Besides, you haven't done anything for several days. What do you mean? But he still left silently. During this period of time, he knew how to find a good customer. Of course, he didn't need to blindly search for one. As long as he was willing to extend his service time, he could get the method to distinguish a good customer from the club. But this century-old old man was really reluctant to pay the price calculated in decades. You wretched little bitch. When I become the Black Soul Envoy with the best performance, and then the chief steward of the Black Soul Envoys, and the most popular person, I'll let you wash my feet. Black Soul number 9 watched Taeyinzi leave in silence, and said in a low voice, Idiot, no wonder you were plotted against and trapped for 500 years. But it's okay to be sinister. Having ambition is also a good thing. A black Maserati Ghibli slowly drove to the entrance of Guyuzhai. Black Soul number 9 looked at the old woman who was helped out of the car by the driver with a perplexed expression. Why was this so? Recently, she had been in a bad mood, so she wasn't in the mood to look for a sugar daddy like before. You, who are you? It was still the old city district. Luochio sat on the sofa in his old house, looking at the club's account book. These were the things he needed to collect in the future. Some would take a very long time, but some would be within 1 or 2 years, or even shorter. Did it push forward the progress of mankind, or, while he was thinking, Miss Maid, who hadn't been tired of the modified nun's robe, came to Luochio, Master, the little butterfly monster is not here. She should have left. Luochio nodded, closing the account book and asking, Have you found anything? Yu Yi gave Luoqiu a folder of documents. These are the names of the property owners of the Everlasting Heart Group after the land acquisition in the Old City District. Basically, they are the family members of the senior managers in the group. Luoqiu lowered his head to read the documents. Yu Yi continued, "It's probably a drama of the left hand being turned over to the right hand. The group acquires the land at a lower price. When the development policy is out in the future, there will be a lot of land bidding when we reconstruct the old city district and attract investment. Therefore, if we succeed, we'll probably acquire a large amount of resources in the old city district at the lowest price." Boss Luo was very clear about his intention, saying frankly, "As long as it doesn't collapse naturally, I want this house to be preserved forever." Yu Yi said softly, "As long as you're willing to, master." Luoqiu shook his head. "If I'm a customer of the club, I'm the one who has the most stringent transaction conditions." Logically speaking, even though learning a foreign language in 5 days seemed to be a good deal, Luoqiu understood that it was the same as the long-distance travel he got in exchange for. In order to do his homework better. If it had nothing to do with the business of the club, the altar would be very stingy to him. Regarding this part, in order to make himself feel better, Boss Luo once again imagined a little girl's voice that could make people feel happy. "You should solve your own private affairs by yourself. Even the chairman of the company can't misappropriate the company's assets." But it wasn't impossible to misappropriate it, as long as it was beneficial to the club. Since it was profitable, it could be used openly. "Do you intend to force the development plan of X City and change the development area? Please pay 10 years of lifespan." After calculating his remaining lifespan after several transactions, Boss Luo realized that if he really wanted to force the development plan of X City, his lifespan would be in arrears. He couldn't help doubting Yu Ye's words. "As long as I'm willing, if one day I want to force the world's will, how much lifespan do I need to recharge? Think about it, will you become stronger if you don't recharge?" Suddenly, the new boss of the club couldn't help but think of a sentence that was widely spread by a boss. "Let me think about it." Luoqiu looked at Yu Yi and said. But he suddenly thought of something. As long as there was profit, the club itself had no moral principles. So, did it mean that as long as there was profit, he could adjust things according to his own will? Boss Luo looked at that heavy account book and became absent-minded again. In the evening, when Guiyushuo returned home, he was stunned, looking at his girlfriend who appeared in front of him with a sweet smile. He suddenly felt as if he had been reborn. Guiyushuo subconsciously said, "Wenwen, why are you?" Wenwen touched her own hair and then turned around in front of Guiyushuo. "I don't know why I suddenly wanted to change my hairstyle today. Then my colleagues accompanied me to buy some clothes. Do I look good?" "Very good." Guiyushuo's eyes brightened. Wenwen suddenly said like a bitter gourd, "But after this round of hairdressing and buying clothes, I've used up a month's worth of my salary. God, I'm crazy. No, I can't waste it like this." "Don't waste it," Guiyushuo hurriedly said, "once or twice." Wenwen just shook her head. "I don't have many chances to wear these clothes. I can wear them when my eldest uncle marries his wife next month." "Oh no, it's too ostentatious." Even if she changed her hairstyle and wore fashionable clothes, it was just a temporary interest and didn't change anything. Not knowing why, the original joyful mood was suddenly diluted. Guiyushuo subconsciously looked out of the window. That mysterious place indeed had a strange power. It only reduced 1 day's lifespan yen PS1. First of all, the famous words of a certain boss were said by Boss Luo. I believed that a certain boss would never argue with a character in a novel. So, it's Boss Luo who is slandering a certain boss, not me equals PS2. A book friend privately messaged me and asked Boss Luo whether the lowly voice in his imagination had a prototype or not. As the author, I can responsibly tell you that of course, the prototype is lowly Yuan. Smile. PS3 thanks. Chapter 84. Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Small? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. A paper crane was standing on the eaves. No one would pay attention to a paper crane on the eaves, because no one cared, no one knew that this paper crane could actually move. However, things other than humans had obviously noticed the moving paper crane. Pa! At this moment, when the paper crane moved on the eaves and magically floated, it was suddenly patted by something and directly flattened. The murderer muttered, "Another one, what does the Eastern Taoist want to do?" Black Soul number 18 had patted off more than 5 paper cranes in the past few days. Black Soul number 18 had seen all kinds of strange occult skills over the long years. This paper crane seemed to be a kind of ancient Oriental magic called guide crane. It was used to find people. All of them were patted off by Black Soul number 18. Black Soul number 18 wouldn't think that this thing was looking for her, so the only possibility was that it was the person she was protecting. It seems that it's necessary to report to Miss Yu Yi. Black Soul number 18 thought secretly. Of course, Black Soul number 18 couldn't leave casually. The only time she could leave without violating the gray time Miss Yu Yi ordered was when the person she was protecting returned home, right under the eyes of the new owner. But when is this woman going to leave? This is the 5th cup of mung bean smoothie. Ren Xiling was squatting in the ice room downstairs of King Kong's house. She was very patient. At the same time, in an empty bungalow in the suburb, the old Taoist Yang Taizi suddenly opened his eyes, frowning. "Who is it? It's been more than 3 days. Did you fail again?" At this moment, an old man at the corner of the house was looking at Yang Taizi, implicitly saying with dissatisfaction, "You're a Taoist in this area." Yang Taizi understated, "There are very few people who can find the guide crane in this area. But those who can find it at least have some secret skills. The guide crane can find the last person your disciple saw. Ghost King Tongtian, I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to avenge your disciple. Besides, I heard some rumors that it was your disciple who misused her magic to commit crimes. What she touched was the most taboo and intolerable thing in this country. She brought this upon herself." The old man suddenly stood up. His face was engraved with many tadpole-like tattoos. At first glance it looked very scary. At this time, the tame head master from Nanyang snorted coldly and said in a strange Mandarin accent, "No matter what he did, I'll be the one to punish him. But if you let my disciple grow old for no reason and commit suicide in despair, I can't just ignore it. You promised to help me find the murderer, so I should give you the crystal skull. If you can't do it, then there's no need to talk about it. I'll do it myself." Yang Taizi frowned. "Ghost King Tongtian, I was your friend when I traveled Southeast Asia in my early years. That's why I decided to help you this time. Cultivators like us don't care about the secular world, but if you dare to commit crimes in our country, I'll be the first one to punish you." "You dare to threaten me?" Ghost King Tongtian's face was full of hostility. This kind of tame head sorcery could be divided into 2 extremes. The kind-hearted person had a bright heart, but if he indulged in the sorcery, he would easily have a distorted mind and act unreasonably. "You're just an unorthodox cultivator. Do you dare to offend our great China? This old Taoist doesn't need your crystal skull. But if you dare to commit crimes, I'll let you see the means of Kelowna's Earth Taoist. I'll let you barbarians know that whoever offends China will be killed no matter how far away they are." Humph! Ghost King Tongtian didn't intend to show weakness, but he didn't want to offend Yang Taizi right away. 3 days? I'll wait for you for 3 more days. If your efforts are still in vain, then our cooperation ends here." Yang Taizi said indifferently, "You'd better behave yourself. It's inappropriate for you to take out your disciple's corpse without permission last time." Ghost King Tongtian didn't speak, directly entering the room. Yang Taizi sat in meditation slowly. After finishing his homework, he continued to fold paper cranes with yellow paper. Boss Luo, who was planning to go home, had to stay here temporarily. The reason was that the new guests in the morning had arrived earlier than expected. Guiyushua didn't beat around the bush, looking at the boss of the club and going straight to the point. If I use my kidney as the transaction fee to make Wenwen more excellent, how excellent can she be? From the conversation in the morning, Luoqiu knew that Guiyushua was in the financial industry. It seemed that Guiyushua wouldn't do a losing business. It was generally believed in the medical field that even if a healthy person with normal kidney function donated one kidney, as long as he paid attention to his diet, it wouldn't be a big deal. It seemed that the new customer thought it was a good deal to use an idle thing that wouldn't cause much harm to himself in exchange for a more valuable temptation. Luoqiu thought for a while and said, "If you want to improve in all aspects, you'll only reach the level of mediocrity. But if it's only one side, the direction that the customer wants will also be different. Mr. Guo, this is a consensual business. It's okay if you make it clear." Guiyushua calculated inwardly. He felt that he hadn't been so serious when he was planning his life. If he could really make his girlfriend a perfect woman, then it would be worth it. After a long time, Guiyushua took a deep breath. First of all, I don't expect her to be able to keep up with my pace, but at least she can't be ignorant. In addition, I hope she can be ambitious and not be content with the status quo. She can have the idea of learning. It's better to have a dream. Luoqiu just looked at Guiyushua silently, without saying a word. Guiyushua couldn't stand the silence and asked cautiously, "Is the transaction fee not enough? If it's not enough, I can add 2 months, no, 1 month's lifespan." Boss Luo suddenly shook his head. "No, customer, the transaction fee you plan to use is enough. So, customer, are you sure you want to buy the things mentioned above?" Guiyushua nodded his head ferociously with incomparable longing. "Look forward to your next visit." Boss Luo watched Guiyushua leave. Guiyushua didn't look back, nor did he stop. He thought to himself that he wouldn't come again. When walking out of the elevator, Luoqiu stopped and looked at the public space of the floor with confusion, but he didn't find anything, so he took out the key to open the door. Although it was convenient to directly teleport home, sometimes he would meet Ren Xiling, who came back earlier than him. After asking Yu Yi, he learned that if an ordinary person was hypnotized too many times and implanted too many false memories, over time, they would become mentally deranged. Therefore, Boss Luo went straight downstairs when he returned home. But when he opened the door, he saw Ren Xiling standing at the door. Her face was haggard, her lips were pale, and she looked like she was about to fall. She directly fell towards Luoqiu. What happened? Luoqiu's heart tightened subconsciously. Ren Xiling raised her head with difficulty. "I had diarrhea 6 times, I can't. Take me to the hospital." "What did you do?" Ren Xiling said weakly. "I don't know if it's because I ate too much mung bean smoothie. 6 cups, is that a lot? Yen 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 PS1. Please don't bring up any rhythm. Be reasonable, the cleric's plot was written last month. How would I know about a certain CX idiot X Hall at that time? PS2. I don't say anything, but I'm China. PS3. Please recommend me, there's one more update tonight. Chapter 85. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. The middle of the second lane of Wenhua Street was named as such on the official map. But there was another name that was more widely known. Bar Street. This was the place where alcohol and turbidity intertwined. It was also the place where some things that couldn't be revealed under the sunlight were hidden. In the early stage of development, the plan that focused on speed made this place the most complicated structure in the entire city. Dark alleys were everywhere, just like a maze. Without an acquaintance, it was better not to go deep into the places where the neon lights couldn't illuminate, even if you knew that there might be more wonderful and stimulating things in those places. Because the woman didn't listen to her friend's advice, she now became extremely regretful and frightened. She shouldn't have followed a stranger. The excessive alcohol made her head extremely dizzy, and there was no way for her to see the appearance of the man who was violating her in the extremely dim light. Even this man might not be the one who just drank with her. She was powerless to resist and wanted to cry for help hysterically. However, the alcohol in her body made it difficult for her to do so. At this moment, the woman suddenly felt her body seem to be much lighter, and the heavy body that pressed on her seemed to have disappeared. What followed was a blood-curdling scream. She vaguely saw a black shadow appear. It seemed that someone saved her. It seemed to be a firefighter? A firefighter with a gas mask? She couldn't see clearly. Her body was finally drunk under the effect of alcohol. Emo Xiaofei frowned and looked at this scantily clad woman. Although it was her own fault for coming to such a place dressed like this, compared to her, the man who intended to do evil was even more guilty. Humph! There are so many dirty and evil people in this society. Emo Xiaofei lifted his leg towards the man who had fainted after being knocked over by his psychokinesis and knocked against the wall. Then, he dragged him out of the dark alley. These days, he felt that his psychokinesis had become more and more powerful. As long as he concentrated his mind, he could even push himself up and fly in the sky. Being a teenager, after Emo Xiaofei thoroughly experienced the feeling of being a Superman, he happily used his flying ability to shuttle through the city quickly and conveniently. Of course, he didn't intend to expose himself in front of others. Even if he did, Emo Xiaofei didn't intend to expose the fact that he could use psychokinesis. Therefore, he quietly took out his father's firefighter uniform and put it on. Did it feel very low? No, wearing his father's uniform, Emo Xiaofei could only feel a steady flow of enthusiasm. Soon after, Emo Xiaofei carried the man to one side of the gate of the police station under the cover of the night, and directly threw the man into the wall of the police station. Of course, he didn't think that the police would know what the man did if he just left the man here. Therefore, he took out his camcorder and listened to Nemo with earplugs under his gas mask. He wanted to be the man who brought his own BGM to film the crime. Emo Xiaofei removed the SD card from the DV and put it into an envelope. The word evidence was written on the envelope. Then, it was thrown into the wall of the police station. Emo Xiaofei had an indescribable pleasure in his heart at this time. But at this moment, Emo Xiaofei's joy suddenly disappeared. He frowned as he watched a young man walk out of the door. Then, the young man quickly got into a car. Emo Xiaofei didn't think that he saw wrongly. This young man was one of the people he threw into the police station before. Emo Xiaofei's eyes narrowed slightly, then he quietly flew into the wall. With tiredness, Officer Ma could only choose to get off work after the investigation of the murder case in the garage was fruitless. This also liberated a group of police officers under him. But when he opened the car door in the parking lot, he was pushed against the car door by a huge force. Then, Officer Ma felt that his backpack seemed to be pressed by something. With his strength, he couldn't break free. He twisted his neck in front of him. There seemed to be someone behind him. Who? Officer Ma was shocked and angry. Why did you let that guy go? I don't know what you're talking about, Officer Ma frowned, saying in a low voice, but it's obvious that your current behavior is against the law. Your courage is beyond my expectation. This is the police station. Humph! Emo Xiaofei snorted coldly. He pressed Officer Ma's back with one hand, but he was indeed suppressing him with his psychokinesis. Don't play dumb with me. I clearly took a picture of the guy who walked out just now. You let him go just like that? Officer Ma was stunned, saying in astonishment, the guy who kept throwing people into the police station these 2 days is you? Who the hell are you? It's none of your business who I am. You haven't answered my question. Officer Ma had a hot temper. He immediately said angrily, Are you an idiot? Don't you know there's a procedure called bail pending trial? Besides, what kind of evidence did you take? They were just talking and discussing, but they didn't do anything. I also brought the tools for the crime. F***ck. Are you out of your mind? That bag of things can only be called evidence after it's used. Officer Ma struggled hard. I don't know what kind of mentality you have, but it's obvious that you're doing something only an idiot would do. Who do you think you are? A superhero? Are you out of your mind after watching a movie? If it weren't for me, that guy would have gotten away with it. Mo Xiaofei was also furious. Do we really have to wait for him to commit a crime, or even kill someone before arresting him? Officer Ma said impatiently, I said you're an idiot. You're really an idiot. I'm too lazy to talk to you. With that, Officer Ma suddenly kicked backward. Mo Xiaofei couldn't react in time and was kicked in the stomach. It was extremely painful at once. He covered his stomach and felt like retching. But before he could react, Officer Ma had seized the opportunity to grab the back of his hand and turned it around, directly pressing Mo Xiaofei to the ground. F***ck. I'm too lazy to care if you want to be a hero, but remember to do something meaningful next time. Of course, there are professionals to deal with criminals. Everything must be done according to the law. You sent him here and beat him until he's full of injuries. At best, you're just abusing the law. With that, Officer Ma was going to remove the old-fashioned gas mask on this guy's head. But at this moment, Officer Ma only felt a sudden huge force, and his hand suddenly loosened. Hearing Mo Xiaofei's angry roar, he directly pushed Officer Ma out, and the latter hit the door of the car hard. Bang! It was another violent impact. Looking at the police officer who directly smashed the car door glass and spat out blood, Mo Xiaofei subconsciously took 2 steps back. Who's there? Hearing the shouts, Mo Xiaofei shuddered inwardly and fled at lightning speed. Someone come quickly. Sir Ma is injured. Ambulance! Ambulance! The doctor said you have acute gastroenteritis. Ren Xiling looked at the speed of the infusion tube and said helplessly, How long will it take? Luoqiu said indifferently, I've paid for this bed. Stay here tonight. Good baby, Mom knows you're sensible. Boss Luo directly rolled his eyes, stood up and said, I'll get you some water. Speaking of which, Luoqiu felt that he and this hospital were fated. In less than a month, he had come here several times. Boss Luo, who was carrying a hot water bottle, suddenly slowed down when he passed by a ward. In the ward, the little boy was reading a storybook to the little girl. It was the story of Cinderella. The little girl with a bandage on her head and a pale face looked yearning. Let's call it a day. I snuck out quietly, okay? And the nurse said you just woke up not long ago, so you need to rest more. Brother Jiangli, I want to be a bride when I grow up. Can I marry you? No. Why? Because I want to be a doctor when I grow up. Just like my dad, I want to save a lot of people. Then I want to be a doctor too, and save a lot of people with you. Okay. Let's make a pinky promise. Pinky promise. Luoqiu didn't continue to watch, holding the water bottle and leaving quietly. Kids nowadays were really professional at abusing single people, but they didn't know whether this promise would last or not, nor did they know what their future would be like. They made a promise and smiled at each other. It was already very beautiful. Chapter 86. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/shao? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Did I do something wrong? Mo Xiaofei squatted at the lamppost downstairs of his house. Why couldn't he be convicted even though he was a bad guy? Was there a need for evidence? It was because of the need for evidence that so many evildoers got away with it. Did things according to the rules and regulations? It was ridiculous that these rules and regulations could only take effect after a tragedy happened. No matter what happened, these policemen would appear at the end. Mo Xiaofei suddenly felt a tingling sensation in his head. But it was just a flash. He just felt that it was a headache and didn't think too much about it. Mo Xiaofei took a deep breath, pulling himself together and standing up. He suddenly soared into the sky, overlooking the city that had begun to dim in the night. At this time, the number of policemen would only decrease, but the ugliness of the city would appear more. All of a sudden, Mo Xiaofei plunged into the huge, dimly lit city. Since those who should protect the city and the residents under the system have many restrictions, then let me do it. Overnight, Mo Xiaofei walked crazily in the city like a ghost. It was also during this night that the numerous crimes that should have happened did not happen in the end. There were thieves who intended to steal, men who deliberately got their wives drunk with bad intentions, husbands who drank too much and abused their wives at home, students who destroyed public property for fun and excitement, and many more. When they woke up, they were horrified to find that they had come to a dark place. Love Go Xiaosei W. Chu. Their hands were hung up with iron chains. This seemed to be an abandoned factory. They looked at each other, who did not know each other but had the same experience. They kept shaking their bodies, trying to struggle out of this terrible situation. At this time, a figure came out of the dark with a flame water lamp. All of a sudden, the light pierced their eyes. Who are you? Let me go. Let me go. Why did you bring me here? I tell you, you'd better let me go. Bastard! Mo Xiaofei looked indifferently at these people who kept yelling. He placed the flame water lantern on the ground and walked in front of these people. Everyone looked at this strange person. He was wearing an old-fashioned firefighter's uniform and even a gas mask. They couldn't see his face at all. Right at this moment, the thick rope in the strange man's hand suddenly whipped down on one of the people. This kind of thick and long rope, when swung, would produce more force, ruthlessly lashing at the skin like a whip. Screams rang out. Mo Xiaofei suddenly spread his hands. Welcome to the prison I've customized for you. I will punish you for your evil deeds. Until you clearly recognize your sins and feel ashamed, then serve here properly. The thick and long rope was pulled down again. This time it was another one. Luoqiu felt something scratch his face, so he opened his eyes. Ren Xiling was leaning on the pillow and looking at him, full of energy. It's impolite to disturb others' rest. Miraculously, Luoqiu didn't feel any physical discomfort after sleeping on the folding chair for most of the night. Because it's too cute, I can't help it. Ren Xiling smiled. Little Luoqiu, if your girlfriend is sick and you accompany her for a night like this, I'm sure she'll like it very much. You can push her as you like. Just because they were close in age, she could speak without thinking? Luoqiu didn't intend to continue the conversation with this woman whose moral integrity had been fed to the dogs. He stood up and put the stool back to its original position, saying indifferently, If there's nothing else, you can leave the hospital. Don't occupy a bed. Ren Xiling stretched and said, Since you're so sensible, I'll listen to you this time. Boss Luo, who didn't understand who was taking care of whom, didn't know where to start complaining. He just put the pair of shoes that Ren Xiling put aside in front of her. Are you willing to leave or not? TSK. Let's finish the ramen later. Go. In the corridor, Ren Xiling touched her stomach. It's empty, I need to find something to fill it up properly. Boss Luo, who didn't know where to start complaining, put an end to her request with one sentence. Well, next time you crawl to the hospital yourself, I won't send you. F***CK. Are you trying to starve me to death while waiting for Qinming? Boss Luo could almost imagine this woman's unreasonable next, but he was surprised to see Ren Xiling stop. He looked in the direction of her gaze. Isn't that old Ma's wife? What? Old Ma was killed by someone? And in the parking lot of the police station? Looking at Officer Ma's wife, Chun Jing, who looked haggard, it was obvious that she didn't have a good rest last night. Ren Xiling and Luoqiu looked at each other and frowned. Chun Jing said, The doctor said that his internal organs were injured, but his bones are fine. He fainted for a night in pain and hasn't woken up yet. Ren Xiling asked directly, What did they say? Who did it? Is it an enemy? Chun Jing shook her head and said, Old Ma didn't say clearly. He's busy with treatment. Ren Xiling touched her chin and said, It's strange. And in the parking lot of the police station, who is so bold? Luochio, what do you think? He's starting to wake up, call the nurse. Luochio, who had been looking at Officer Ma lying on the bed, suddenly said. After a while, everyone gathered around Officer Ma's bed again. After Officer Ma woke up, he was very surprised that Ren Xiling and Luochio were also here. He was touched. No. I had diarrhea last night, so I came to the hospital. Officer Ma coughed twice and said, My colleagues will come to take a statement later, you can go back first. Luochio suddenly asked, Uncle Ma, who attacked you? Officer Ma suddenly shook his head and said, It was too dark, I didn't see clearly. Luochio nodded. He knew that Uncle Ma was actually lying. Uncle Ma, who was known as a sharpshooter, actually had good eyesight. But since he didn't speak, there was probably something that was hard to say. When you're better, we'll come to see you again. Luochio finally said. Purchase successful. This information deducts 88 minutes and 30 seconds of lifespan. The remaining lifespan is 973 days, 9 hours, 3 hours, 37 minutes, and 45 seconds. So, how was the value of purchasing information converted? Sitting in the club lobby, what Luochio didn't expect was that the person who injured Uncle Ma this time was Mo Xiaofei, who got psychokinesis from the club at the cost of his soul not long ago. If Uncle Ma didn't know Mo Xiaofei, why did he hide this matter? Yen PS1. Sorry for the late update, because Saturday is White Stone's family day. PS2. White Stone is from a single-parent family, so he will accompany his mother to walk around on Saturday or Sunday. PS3. Shameless to ask for votes. Chapter 87. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Gone. During the break between classes, the girls were sharing their little secrets with each other. Although the voice was not loud, it could still be heard if one listened carefully. It's been 2 days. His phone and wallet are still there, but he's gone. The thin female student whispered. Maybe he's drinking somewhere? The good classmate expressed her understanding and comfort. Besides, isn't it good? Your dad often beats and scolds you and auntie when he's drunk. The skinny girl sighed, as if she didn't want to discuss this matter any further. Suddenly, a sound came from the seat next to her. It was another female student, the language class representative, Luo Xiao. She looked at the person whom she had woken up, the guy who had been sleeping on his stomach from the beginning to the end of the class. Mo Xiaofei, you haven't handed in your essay. Mo Xiaofei rubbed his eyes and was obviously stunned for a moment. He looked at the Chinese class representative and asked, Can it be a little later? He had completely forgotten about this matter. You have to hand it in before school ends at the latest. Got it. Mo Xiaofei looked away and said. Luo Xiao nodded and walked away, but the fragrance of a girl remained. Mo Xiaofei stared at her back in a daze. He didn't know why, but he always felt that he couldn't see her appearance clearly. It wasn't that he couldn't see her or didn't know what she looked like. It was just that there was always a kind of hazy feeling. Love go little say, Chu. This girl was not particularly beautiful, but she was very strong. He used to be very timid. That kind of nature that he didn't have was more attractive to him than the opposite sex. Can I see you clearly now? Mo Xiaofei muttered to himself. But he quickly shook his head. He had more important things to do now. Taking a deep breath, Mo Xiaofei continued to sleep. If he didn't sleep now, he would only be tired at night. Maybe it was because he used the psychokinesis too often. Mo Xiaofei always felt very sleepy. When he was about to fall asleep, Mo Xiaofei glanced at the thin girl. Don't worry about it. Once that guy is done repenting and knows his mistake, he will return to your side. His gaze sank into the darkness where his eyes were closed. In the darkness there was a slight smell of blood mixed with the acid of sweat, as well as the rusty smell of corroding iron. In this deserted, abandoned factory, the number of people who were hung up with iron chains had increased from the initial few to the current 20 to 30. In just 2 short days, Yu Yi looked at the men and women who were hung up and chuckled. Finally, she walked to Luocchio's side. He was flipping through a brand new soft leather notebook. On the pages, he wrote about the people who were hung up, why they needed to be imprisoned, and what kind of punishment they should receive. A hit-and-run young master, a husband who likes domestic violence. Luocchio suddenly closed the soft leather notebook and put it back to its original place. They are all people who can be free and unfettered outside the law. Yu Yi picked up the soft leather notebook. Unlike Luocchio, who carefully read page by page, she just flipped through the pages quickly. It's also some places that are far away. It seems that Mo Xiaofei is really hard-working, but I don't know how long he can hold on. Luocchio was now looking at those people who finally had a chance to breathe after being tortured. Even if they were hung up like this, they could still fall asleep without eating for 2 days. Do you want to rescue these people? Yu Yi suddenly said. If they disappear, Mo Xiaofei will only use his ability more. Besides, they need to be rescued now. Miss Maid was hinting to the boss that there was a ready-made business here. However, the club leader, who had other plans in mind, shook his head. Luocchio said indifferently, as more and more people go missing, the police will pay more attention to this place. Sooner or later, they will find this place. Mo Xiaofei didn't mean to kill these people. It's not a bad thing to let them suffer before being rescued. Yu Yi suddenly asked, Master, since Mo Xiaofei hurt Officer Ma, don't you want to teach him a lesson? Luocchio looked at her. He argued with Uncle Ma because the criminals could be bailed out easily. Because of this, Uncle Ma finally concealed this matter. Since he made the decision to hide it, then we should respect his decision. Luocchio finally looked at these criminals, who finally fell asleep. He thinks that such young people are just a little extreme, but they are not bad in nature. The crime of assaulting the police is too serious. Luocchio shook his head dully, suddenly asking, By the way, it has been 3 days since Yang Taizi came here last time, right? Yu Yi nodded. Luocchio suddenly said, I want to go to the Barren Mountain last time to try that revolver. Go and prepare some bullets for me. Miss Maid nodded her head again. She knew that her new master didn't do it purely out of interest. Black Soul number 18 was just about to flatten this annoying paper crane and complete the achievement of 12 kills. But he suddenly stopped. The 12th paper crane was suddenly enveloped by an indifferent, dusky ball of light. Then, it flew out and landed in the palm of a fair and delicate hand. Miss Yu Yi. Black Soul number 18 didn't dare to neglect her. He came to Miss Servant Girl, who appeared here silently at the fastest speed. Looking at the struggling paper crane in her palm, Yu Yi seemed to sense a familiar smell. This is the 12th one. It seems that the guy hiding in the dark is really unwilling to give up. Black Soul no. 18 said, but I really can't find out the origin of this paper crane. Yu Yi said indifferently, you don't need to care about what happens next. You just need to protect this young lady. Yu Yi glanced into the ice room, looking at sub-editor Ren, who was sitting by the window, but didn't order mung bean smoothie this time. I know. Black Soul number 18 said respectfully, and then said hesitantly, Miss Yu Yi, shouldn't we report this to the new owner? Yu Yi said indifferently, if the master needs to worry about such a small thing, then what's the point of us servants? Feeling the great pressure from the master in the club, Black Soul number 18 quickly lowered his head. It's dinner time. Yu Yi said suddenly, I'm going back to prepare dinner for the master, you continue your work here. Yes, saying this, Yu Yi clenched her palm, and the paper crane in her palm turned into a cloud of flying ash instantly. The royal blue eyes were overlooking the direction of a suburb of the city, and a touching sneer appeared on Miss Maid's face. In the suburb, Yang Taizi suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. Not good. Yen P.S. There's another update at 12 o'clock. Chapter 88. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? Sagnet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Yang Taizi was regulating his breath. Love go little say, Chu. Several hours later, Yang Taizi finished regulating his breath and waited for Ghost King Tongtian to come back. These 2 days, this guy always went to the nearby barren hills. He could smell the stench of the corpse on Ghost King Tongtian's body growing stronger and stronger. You seem to be injured? Ghost King Tongtian looked at Yang Taizi's pale face and frowned. But Yang Taizi said in a low voice without hesitation, Ghost King, let's call off this cooperation. I don't know who your disciple provoked, but I can tell you seriously that he's someone we can't mess with even if we join hands. Ghost King Tongtian was surprised. You fought? Did that guy hurt you? Yang Taizi told him the truth. Before and after, he would only destroy my guiding crane, but this time, he gave me a direct warning. I won't do business with you anymore. Ghost King Tongtian got angry. You cowardly Taoist, where's your arrogance when you threaten me? You think you can sink just because your opponent is not easy to provoke? Yang Taizi snorted coldly. The cooperation between you and me was originally consensual. You crossed the border. I just don't want you to do whatever you want here, so I want to help you. I don't deny that I have my own selfish motives, but I know the opponent is stronger than you, and your disciple got what he deserved. You should know when to back off. I don't care. Ghost King Tongtian got angry. I'll get my revenge. If you're scared, you can go back to your temple. I don't have to rely on you. Yang Taizi snorted. You don't know what's good for you. Do you really think I don't know you started to use your disciple's corpse to refine the evil zombie skill? If you're willing to take it back to your territory, it's fine. But it seems you don't want to be obedient. Stinky Taoist. Are you going to stop me? I just want you to turn back. That's all. You shouldn't have such thoughts. You think I'm afraid of you? Ghost King Tongtian's body suddenly emitted a strange green light, setting off the tattoos on his face. He really looked like an evil ghost. At this moment, Yang Taizi took a deep breath, with his legs slightly apart and his hands holding a yellow talisman. His Taoist robe fluttered without wind, with a wisp of purple air lingering between his eyebrows. The smell of gunpowder between the two of them was getting thicker and thicker. Suddenly, the surroundings became gloomy and cold. A cluster of black flames was born. It was as if the fuse of gunpowder had been ignited. It spread rapidly and turned into a circle of black flames. Yang Taizi and Ghost King Tongtian had a bad feeling at the same time. At this moment, they had no time to care about each other and subconsciously rushed out of the fire ring. Unexpectedly, as soon as his body approached, the black flame shot out as if it had a mind of its own. Yang Taizi and Ghost King Tongtian were both hit by the weird black flame. Speaking of which, it was terrifying. When this black flame burned on their clothes, it made the two of them feel extremely terrified at the same time. They felt a piercing pain in their spirits, as if their spirits were being pierced by steel needles, and also as if they were being burned by a raging fire. It was not the physical pain, but the spiritual pain, which was more important in the life soul. The two of them screamed miserably, hurriedly tearing off the clothes attached by the black flame. At this moment, a female voice came from all directions. Only one of you two can walk out of here. I don't care who you are. Yang Taizi's face changed dramatically. This voice, wasn't it that horrible woman in the auction venue, that dangerous place? The death of Ghost King Tongtian's apprentice was related to that place. No wonder she could silently break his spell 12 times in a row. Wait. I don't know. Or Yang Taizi didn't even have time to call himself a poor Taoist. However, before he finished his words, he was interrupted. These black flames will shrink. You don't have much time. The circle of black flames was shrinking, or rather, they were closing up rapidly. These black flames looked like they had surrounded the city in a circle. However, if one wanted to escape, they would immediately shoot out in different directions. It was extremely vicious. Yang Taizi didn't have time to explain, because Ghost King Tongtian had planned to take the initiative to take his life. I shouldn't have agreed to Ghost King Tongtian's request out of greed. Forget it, this old Taoist is not willing to die here and cut off the path to immortality. Yang Taizi muttered. His left hand formed the 3 pure fingers, and his right hand held the yellow talisman upright. A purple light flashed between his eyebrows. The two of them fought with all their strength in the circle of black flames, which was very dangerous. However, outside the circle of fire, the club's servant girl was carefully reading a Chinese cookbook. Jade tremella, 15-20 grams dry tremella, 120-150 grams minced chicken. Not knowing how long had passed, suddenly a miserable howl came. Then the circle of fire automatically revealed a gap. Yang Taizi's robe was torn apart by wild beasts, with dozens of large and small wounds on his body. He hobbled out with a broken peach wood sword in his hand. Ghost King Tongtian has been killed. I didn't know his disciple had offended your club. If I offended you, please forgive me, Yang Taizi said while pinching his weak mouth. However, this indifferent woman only paid more attention to the book in her hand, an unknown book. Yang Taizi hesitated for a while and said, I won't say more about today's matter. Ghost King Tongtian was an unorthodox cultivator who didn't have a master, and no one will find trouble with your club in the future. Phoenix lying on its nest, hen, fish maw. Jade orchid slices? Yu Yi blinked, suddenly looking at Yang Taizi and asked, Little Taoist, what's jade orchid slices? He said a lot, but she didn't listen at all? She was reading a cookbook? Yang Taizi was also a modern Taoist who knew how to use mobile phones and chat group. At this moment, his heart was filled with curses, but he had to answer the question. It should be winter bamboo shoots or other dried products. Really? Yu Yi nodded, quietly disappearing in front of Yang Taizi. The old Taoist, Yang Taizi, who was just called a little Taoist, was now covered in cold sweat. He sat down on the ground as if he was about to collapse, with his back drenched in cold sweat. What is this woman's cultivation? It's so terrifying. But he still couldn't figure out his opponent's intention. The black flames were gradually extinguished. After resting for a while, Yang Taizi frowned and got up, walking back to Ghost King Tongtian's corpse, using the broken peach wood sword in his hand to pick it up a few times. Then he said in a down-to-earth tone, It didn't drop any equipment. Where is the crystal skull hidden? How annoying. 3 unconscious people were tied up on the ground. Beside them was student Emo Xiaofei. Emo Xiaofei was chewing bread and drinking yogurt, looking down from the rooftop of the building. Not only the psychokinesis, but he also found that his hearing and eyesight had become very powerful. Suddenly, he heard a voice asking for help. It was a very common and easy thing to happen, robbery. Ignoring the unfinished bread, Emo Xiaofei began to scan the structure of this place. Then, he directly jumped off the roof of the 20-story building and slid his body into the box of the low building below like a startled swan. A middle-aged man holding a black satchel was running into a complicated alley, intending to avoid the robber who chased him all the way. At this time, his foot seemed to have tripped over something, directly falling to the ground. The satchel in his hand also rolled to the side, and was picked up by someone. A guy wearing a strange fire uniform which was very loose and didn't fit him, and a gas mask. You have hands and feet but don't want to make progress. Do you only know how to rob? Emo Xiaofei looked at this frightened middle-aged man with disdain. That man suddenly gritted his teeth, abruptly getting up and rushing over. Give it back to me! Humph, unrepentant. Emo Xiaofei snorted coldly and waved his hand. Before the man rushed over, his body had already flown out and fell directly into the pile of rubbish. Shaking his head, Emo Xiaofei walked to the front of this man, looking at the middle-aged man who was glaring at him. Feeling the hatred in his eyes, Mo Xiaofei said indifferently, "You need to repent." He lifted the man up, but found that the man didn't resist, but suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Mo Xiaofei gave a start, subconsciously looking at the pile of rubbish, a pile of broken glass. There were several beer bottles here. That man fell down, crushing some, and at the same time, the broken glass bottles were inserted into his back. The clothes on his back had been dyed red with blood. Mo Xiaofei quivered, shaking his hand, and that man fell to the ground. He subconsciously stepped back and leaned against the wall. At this moment, that man directly went over with his eyes closed. Dead? Suddenly. Where is he? Come out. Damn guy, dare to rob my stuff. Come out. The owner of the item had found him. Mo Xiaofei panicked, rushing up to the sky. He didn't care whether he was seen or not. He just wanted to escape. Yen PS1. As the title, this is Miss Servant Girl's special badge. PS2. It's 12 o'clock. Please recommend me. Chapter 89. Genius 1 second. Remember love /go little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. After escaping, he hid on the rooftop of a nearby building, trembling for no reason. He recalled what happened in the garage not long ago. As if it was right in front of him. Blood pool, frightened eyes, and miserable screams. Mo Xiaofei subconsciously covered his forehead, trying to calm down and convince himself, "It's your fault. It's your fault. Why did you resist? It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault." Mo Xiaofei didn't know how much time had passed, but he began to feel the pain in his head was gone. He stood up and took a deep breath. Once again, he glided down between the buildings in the night. He returned to the alley. The owner called the police and the ambulance. Some onlookers watched the medical staff send the man into the ambulance with a stretcher. "To be honest, officer, I really don't know. When I caught up with him, this guy was lying on the ground, covered with blood. I was the one who was robbed. Many people saw it. If you don't believe me, you can ask the people who sell their wares nearby." At this time, Mo Xiaofei was also among the onlookers. They discussed it like this. "That's terrible. Such a big glass body was inserted, and the ground was covered with blood. Wicked people suffer a lot." Mo Xiaofei didn't continue to watch. "Wicked people suffer a lot. It's your fault." But for some reason, Mo Xiaofei was in a bad mood tonight. After he hurriedly brought the few people he had caught to the abandoned factory, he didn't pay any attention to them. All he wanted to do was to rush home. "Yes, it's your fault." As usual, Mo Xiaofei hid a set of clothes and tools downstairs, and then flew to the window of his room along the wall. It was not high, only the third floor. The window was opened. Mo Xiaofei gave a start. He remembered that he should have closed the window when he left. Mo Xiaofei frowned, stepping over the window frame, opened the curtain, and landed on the ground. When he was about to turn on the desk lamp, the incandescent light was turned on. Mo Xiaofei gave a start. At this moment, he saw his father Mo Hongqi in the room. He turned on the light. He saw himself coming in through the window. Because there was still a curtain between them, perhaps they didn't see his flying appearance. Instead, they just thought that he had crawled in. But even so, it made Mo Xiaofei feel uneasy. He didn't know how to explain this to his father. She also subconsciously hid the backpack with a set of tools behind her back. "Dad, are you hungry? It's so late." Unexpectedly, Mo Hongqi suddenly said, "I just made some food. Let's eat together." Mo Xiaofei nodded subconsciously. The lights in her father's studio were still on. Maybe he was rushing to finish the sculpture for the client? The father and son sat at the table. Because of Mo Hongqi's inconvenience, the food they ate was quite simple. It was just some chopped green onion noodles with some sauce. You didn't close the window properly at night, and a stray cat ran in from who knows where. Mo Hongqi ate the noodles and said softly, "I called you a few times, but there was no response. Emo Xiaofei lowered his head, saying, "That stray cat. Maybe it was frightened when it went in, so it jumped out." Emo Hongqi looked at Emo Xiaofei with a gentle smile. A father always had a faint majesty to his son. Emo Xiaofei didn't dare to look at his father, saying uneasily, "Dad, I'm fine. I didn't do anything." Emo Xiaofei felt that such a tone had no persuasive power. He didn't know how to confess to his father. "Hurry up and eat. Then tidy up and go to bed. Don't wake up your mother." Emo Hongqi said softly, "You have to go to school tomorrow. Don't waste your energy." Emo Xiaofei didn't know why his nose twitched, blurting out, "Dad, actually Unexpectedly, Emo Hongqi's father shook his head at this moment, saying suddenly, "Today, the school teacher called, saying that it's not safe recently and asked the parents to take care of the children. I guess there should be a murder case 2 days ago. It's reported that several students were killed. They should be from your school." Emo Hongqi's father glanced at his son, noticing that his eyes seemed to shrink. "You've been very sensible since childhood. If there's something you can't solve, you can discuss it with me or your mother. As a man, you don't have to shoulder everything by yourself. And, no matter what you do, pay attention to safety." "I won't sneak out again." Emo Xiaofei lowered his head. Emo Hongqi said softly, "Hurry up and eat." Emo Xiaofei nodded. After eating, he went back to the room after tidying up. Lying on the bed, he couldn't fall asleep. Meow Boss Luo, who wasn't from the cat alien party, looked at the black stray cat that was acting cute at his feet. He squatted down and stretched out his hand to tease its neck. Then, he took out a small package of milk biscuits, taking one out and putting it on the ground. He stroked the kitten's hair, looking at the room that was used as a studio with a faint light on, saying nothing. How would Emo Xiaofei choose the next path? The club's boss actually had a feeling of déjà vu, as if he had suddenly obtained a magical power. Different people with the same experience, what would they choose? Let's wait and see. Luoqiu sprinkled another biscuit, looking at the kitten's gnawing appearance, suddenly saying softly, "There is a bigger problem ahead." Standing up, Boss Luo finally said to the kitten, "Find an owner, because you don't know when an accident will happen to you." Taking a deep breath, Emo Xiaofei walked into the hospital. It should be this hospital, the man who was sent here last night. Robbery wasn't supposed to be a deadly crime. Emo Xiaofei didn't think that he would end up like this at the beginning. He comforted himself, but his mind was restless. So, he came here hesitantly when school was over at noon. The one last night should be in the ICU. "Who are you to him?" Facing the nurse's inquiry, Emo Xiaofei suddenly said, "You dropped something." The nurse at the front desk gave a start, looking down subconsciously. The cup on the counter suddenly fell to the ground and broke. The nurse screamed. When she came back to her senses, Emo Xiaofei had already disappeared. In the corridor, 2 nurses passed by with a cart, talking about the matter of arriving at the ward. "It's so miserable." Mother was waiting for the operation to save her life, but when she turned around, even father was lying on the ground. Alas, it seems that they couldn't raise the money for the operation, so they took the risk to rob. Unexpectedly. This little girl is too strong. Obviously, she was so uneasy. Emo Xiaofei's body trembled slightly, looking toward the ward subconsciously. For the first time, he clearly saw the hazy figure that he couldn't see clearly. For the first time, he couldn't see the strength of the past from her. Looking at the pale girl who was sitting beside the sickbed with red eyes but didn't shed tears, Emo Xiaofei stepped back. He knocked against the chair in the corridor, sitting down weakly. He felt his body trembling violently, and at the same time, he seemed to have difficulty breathing. His body seemed to be hollowed out. "Luoji, why is it you?" Emo Xiaofei suddenly grasped his hair. He saw the bright red in front of his eyes, as if he had fallen into a whirlpool. The garage, the abandoned factory, the alley last night, and those prisoners who were hung in the prison. He lowered his head, seeing a drop of blood dripping on the floor. One drop after another. That was the blood from his nose. Emo Xiaofei touched it in a panic. Wiping it, a pair of blood-stained hands appeared. Wicked people suffer a lot. It's your fault. What a miserable little girl. Mother is still waiting for help. Please, let me go. Let me go, I dare not, don't hit me, don't hit me. What a miserable little girl. Wicked people suffer a lot. It's your fault. What a miserable little girl. Wicked people suffer a lot. It's your fault. Wicked people suffer a lot. It's your fault. What a miserable little girl. He felt unprecedented coldness, confusion, and fear. Yen 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 PS1. Today, someone complained that I'm a maniac who tortures the supporting roles, saying, I'm going to send a blade. And so on. PS2. Of course, I know it's a joke, probably. PS3. Classmate Emo Xiaofei, I hope he can get a fair result. Of course, it's just what I think in my heart. It's hard to get everyone's opinion. PS4. I'm writing like walking on thin ice. PS5. So I'm still shamelessly asking for a recommendation. Chapter 90. A genius remembers love in 1 second / small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Qinqiu looked at those students who were drawing attentively, revealing a satisfied smile. This was a self-managed art studio. There was a space for teaching people to draw, as well as a place for visiting students or her own graffiti for sale. Of course, if a student's work was sold, she would only charge a small consignment fee. She walked up to a man. The man had been here for some time, and he was looking at a not-for-sale item that had just been put there recently. Sir, do you like this painting very much? You are? I'm the owner of this place. You can say that I'm a painting teacher. Qinqiu gave out her handmade business card. The man glanced at it and nodded. Then, he asked curiously, why is there a painting here that doesn't match? Although it's quite pretty. Qinqiu said with a smile, this was left behind by a guest. I'm waiting for the day he comes back and takes it back. But he didn't leave any contact information that day. The man nodded casually and suddenly said, my girlfriend wants to learn painting recently. Qinqiu said, I see. Why don't you ask your girlfriend to come here and have a look? The art studio needed to be managed, so if there was a source of students, they wouldn't miss it. The man shook his head and said, she's been a little busy recently, so she might not have the time. Why don't you introduce me to some beginners' drawing tools? Qinqiu nodded as she quickly found some drawing tools, sketchbooks and books for beginners. He used the PLS machine to swipe the payment. After the man paid, he carried the things out of the studio and did not take the receipt. Qinqiu glanced at the signature on the receipt and felt that this man was not bad. Guiyushua. Love go little say, netku at noon, Luoqiu was dragged to the hospital by Ren Xiling to visit Officer Ma. Well, it should be read as visiting a patient and writing a set of materials. Old Ma, did you really not see who knocked you out that night? You deserve the title of the top sharpshooter. I believe in your professionalism. Subeditor Ren was not stingy with her praise. Don't always try to create big news. Although he couldn't get out of bed, Officer Ma, who had recovered a lot of energy, said with a sullen face, if you have so much free time to look for gossip, why don't you use your pen, criticize society, and satirize the country? You can use your sarcasm to criticize the current government. F***CK. My son is still here. Subeditor Ren glared at her. Mind your words. You also know that little Luoqiu is also here. Officer Ma said unhappily, then please learn from your son. At least she knows how to peel an apple for a patient like me. What about you? Are you here to visit a patient or to interrogate a criminal? Luoqiu. Boss Luo was focused on peeling an apple and watching quietly. Speaking of which, could he not call him little? Ren Xiling frowned. Suddenly the phone rang. I need to answer the phone. As she said, she grabbed the apple that had just been peeled from Luacio's hand and ran out of the ward while biting it. "Hello, boss," Officer Ma sighed, looking at Luacio, who was still holding a fruit knife with a confused look, and said pitifully, "I don't know who is taking care of who." "It's nothing." Luacio just took another apple, holding it between his thumb and forefinger, gently turning it. Officer Ma suddenly said, "Luacio, aren't you curious?" "The speed of turning the apple didn't change," Luacio said softly. "I think everyone has his own decision. No matter what it is, I also respect your decision." Officer Ma suddenly asked, "Luacio, if you meet a person, you can see that his nature is good, but he does things a bit extreme. So he made some mistakes. Will you kill these mistakes or give him a chance to change?" Luacio shook his head and said, "At my age, I can't say that I can answer your doubts, but I think the opportunity should be given to oneself." Officer Ma was stunned. This seemed to be a very simple truth. It seemed that he was the only one who fell into it. At this time, Luacio cut the peeled apple into 8 equal pieces and sent it to Officer Ma. "I'm going to wash my hands." Officer Ma smiled, feeling that this child was more and more like his brother Luo, who was no longer around. Eating the delicately cut apple, Officer Ma mutters, "But brother Luo is not so delicate. Did he give birth to the wrong child?" Officer Ma, who was eating the apple, looked at Ren Xiling, who intended to persevere in interrogating him after the phone call. He suddenly said, "Sister-in-law, did you get the news that more people were reported missing these 2 days?" Ren Xiling frowned and nodded. "Old Ma, do you really know something?" Officer Ma said seriously, "Do you still remember the murder case in the garage a few days ago?" Ren Xiling sat down, taking out a small notebook and a ballpoint pen. She lowered her head, preparing to write. But seeing Officer Ma staring at her without speaking, Subeditor Ren smiled awkwardly. "It's a professional habit, hee. Be serious." Officer Ma was instantly infuriated. He couldn't stop coughing as his injuries were aggravated. Ren Xiling stuck out her tongue, but heard Officer Ma gasping, "I may have let a thug go. Indeed, ordinary people don't have such great strength." Ren Xiling frowned. "Even if there is, there won't be many of them at the same time. So it's not impossible that you suspect the person who injured you is the same person as the one in the garage. Moreover, if that weirdo has the behavior of throwing criminals to the police station, it proves that he is a person with a strong sense of justice. The man who died in the garage seems to be a gangster." Officer Ma shook his head. "It's just a possibility, but I can't say anything without evidence. But I've learned from my colleagues that there are all kinds of people who have been reported missing these days, but some of them have criminal records." Ren Xiling said seriously, "Old Ma, if we assume that the murderer, the one who injured you, and even the disappearance of these people are all done by the same person, then what is he going to do by capturing them?" Officer Ma frowned and thought for a while, with an ugly face. Looking at Officer Ma, Ren Xiling seemed to think of a possibility. She took a deep breath and said, "That guy may be possessed by the devil." Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. It was a man in his 30s, dressed in a suit, with a capable and experienced aura. Ren Xiling and Officer Ma looked at the man at the same time, and then showed a surprised expression. The man smiled. "Long time no see, Old Ma. Long time no see, sister-in-law." "Yi Yan," Ren Xiling exclaimed, "when did you come back? Didn't you go to France for several years?" "I have something to do, so I came back." The man named Yi Yan came in. "I heard that Old Ma was injured, so I came directly after getting off the plane." Looking at Yi Yan, who was still holding a suitcase, Ren Xiling's eyes brightened, squinted and smiled. "Little Yi, I heard that you participated in several operations in the past 2 years, and broke several big cases. Do you have any important tasks this time?" Yi Yan suddenly stepped back, avoiding Ren Xiling, who was approaching. "Little sister-in-law, you should know that my side is much more strict than Old Ma's. Haven't you changed your bad habits in the past 2 years?" "TSK. However, Sub-Editor Ren was also a shrewd person. She knew that this man's sudden appearance was only a part of the visit, and there might be something more important. "I'm going to the toilet. When you come back, tell me all about the big cases you solved." After Ren Xiling left sensibly, Yi Yen sat down and chatted with Officer Ma for a while. Officer Ma said, "It's not a vacation, right?" Yi Yen said, "It's still the last case about Mr. Sun." When Luochu was walking in the corridor, a person suddenly rushed out from the corner and bumped into him in a panic. There was no injury, but both of them were slightly separated. He looked at the person who bumped into him, and there were some blood stains on his face that hadn't been wiped off. It was Mo Xiaofei. Yen PS1. Thank you to the big shots who donated and voted for me. Chapter 91. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Green hills, clear water, chirping birds and fragrant flowers, this place far away from the hustle and bustle was the most beautiful. The little butterfly monster suddenly became homeless and lost her direction. After the boss of the bun shop passed away peacefully, the little butterfly monster Luo Dance began to miss her mother and the friends she had met in the mountain. After the successful immortalization, she didn't have time to go back to the mountain because she intended to feel the new life. Well, the nectar here is the most delicious. The little butterfly monster, who would become very satisfied as long as she could have the delicious nectar, was now lying on the grassland covered with wild chrysanthemums. She didn't wear shoes. Her feet were as smooth as jade, as if polished by running water for thousands of years. She felt the grass swaying in the wind and tickling her. The little butterfly monster was in a good mood. At this time, an ordinary butterfly flew past Luo Dance in a hurry. At this moment, Luo Dance felt a creepy aura coming from the ravine. She couldn't help but sit up. In the ravine, the smell of blood was getting thicker. There were many trees nearby, so there was no sunshine all day, so it was naturally cool. But at this time, Luo Dance vaguely heard a faint scream. When she cautiously approached, she could even smell a rotten smell. It was like the smell of a corpse. Pushing aside the branches, the little butterfly monster was suddenly startled. In front of her, there was something like a human. The reason why it looked like a human was that it had eyes, ears, mouth, nose, and limbs. However, its body was badly mutilated, as if it had been bitten by something. He could even see the disgusting green mucus coming out of the body of this thing in a subtle way. When it was discovered, it was grabbing a wild dog and biting it. Similarly, it was bitten to the point of being badly mutilated. Luo Dance was very frightened, instinctively stepping back and stepping on the dry branches on the ground. That thing suddenly raised its head, and in its dry and sunken eye sockets, its 2 eyeballs were like ghost lights emitting green light. It suddenly swooped over. Luo Dance instinctively felt fear. She opened her huge and gorgeous butterfly wings and fled far away. She only had time to see a strange, crystal skull embedded in the chest of this thing. This thing was like the walking dead that Grandpa Tree Demon had mentioned, or something like a zombie or a living dead. Since when was there such a thing on the mountain? The little butterfly didn't know what to do. Mo Xiaofei was absent-minded for a moment. He didn't want to stay here any longer. He just wanted to find a place where no one was around. It seemed that it was purely an accident that he met someone. However, at this moment, his heart suddenly jumped. Vaguely, he felt an indescribable uneasiness from this person who was a few years older than him. It was that feeling from that place. "It's you." Mo Xiaofei took 2 steps back subconsciously. Luochu frowned slightly at Mo Xiaofei's sudden change in reaction. Could he tell by feeling alone? It seemed that there were many wonderful things about the development of the human brain. Something like the sixth sense? Luochu didn't expect to meet Mo Xiaofei again in this way. When he was about to say something, Mo Xiaofei's face suddenly changed, saying, "It's you." The meaning of "it's you" was obviously different. It's you. It's you who arranged all this. It's you who asked me to personally kill Luosie's father. It's you. Emo Xiaofei looked nervous. Rather than nervous, it was better to say that he became nervous. Luoqiu looked at him carefully, and wanted to say something, but he had lost the intention to speak. Emo Xiaofei seemed to be suddenly enlightened at this moment. I understand. I completely understand. It's you, you're the one who secretly manipulated all this. You want to make me suffer and feel guilty. You're really devils. You really like to play with souls. So, how did he come to such a conclusion? Was it just because he was dragged to the hospital and coincidentally bumped into her? Emo Xiaofei suddenly snorted coldly. In an instant, he seemed to have lost his previous confusion and pain. He seemed to have gained an unlimited amount of motivation. He seemed to have jumped out of the whirlpool of self-blame in an instant. He also seemed to have found the definition in his heart again. It's just an accident. Even an accident arranged by you. I didn't do anything wrong. I won't give in, I won't. I won't bow down to you. In the future, I'll do better. I'll never let you find any chance to take advantage of me. You're the source of the biggest evil. His eyes were different. Luoqiu felt it carefully. This guest seemed to have imagined a huge conspiracy in a short moment. But at the same time, along with the sharp eyes, there was an invading force that broke out from Emo Xiaofei. Feeling that his body was in a state that could be overturned at any time, Luoqiu quickly looked around. At the same time, the psychokinesis that broke out from Emo Xiaofei's body suddenly soared several times. In the air, an invisible shock wave immediately spread out like an explosion. Bang! The glass in the corridor was shattered. Some patients' family members and nurses in the front and back corridor were shocked and fainted. The club boss, who should have been the first to bear the brunt of the impact, was standing in the same place and scathed. Feeling Emo Xiaofei's uncontrollable gaze, Luoqiu suddenly said, "Did I do this on purpose?" Such a question made Emo Xiaofei absent-minded. Not only did he faint due to the impact, some people were even cut by the broken glass. Emo Xiaofei suddenly stopped attacking and stepped back. "It's not me, not me, not me." In his mind, it was like a balloon was expanding. Emo Xiaofei painfully grabbed his hair and stepped back. He was nervous and suddenly went crazy. "It's not me." He suddenly turned around and ran away crazily. This would easily attract people. Luoqiu frowned and didn't chase him. He just quickly looked at the scene again. Those who fainted and those who were cut by the glass were just minor injuries. No one was disfigured because of this. An oxygen supply machine flew out from the broken glass window of the nearby ward, automatically cutting off the connection with the oxygen cylinder. When the oxygen in the oxygen cylinder was almost exhausted, Luoqiu suddenly clenched his hand. The entire oxygen supply machine exploded. In order to make it more realistic, the wreckage began to scatter. Boss Luo took a look at the scene before they came. He thought that if such a scene couldn't be explained, then it would become a mystery in the hospital. Speaking of which, the clown face doesn't work on non-ordinary people? Yen 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 PS1. Master Asakahara Green in the book review section, please let me go PS2. Read the second update later. In view of the power of Master Asakahara Green, I have carefully checked this chapter. If there are any mistakes, I will PS3. Let me go back to my daily life of asking for recommendations and favorites as if nothing happened. Equals PS4. Thank you to all the big shots who tipped me today. PS5. Actually, among the rewards, are there any young women, little girls, crying emoji? Chapter 92. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. By the way, I met your Uncle Yi Yan in the hospital just now. Boss Luo planned to go back to Officer Ma's ward, but he met Ren Xiling before he arrived. Now, he was in Subeditor Ren's Red Mini Clubman. So you tell me now? Luocio looked at the female driver. Ren Xiling shrugged. I heard the explosion and forgot about it. Is the explosion of the oxygen supply machine so powerful? It's so strange. Drive carefully, Luocio reminded her, and then looked out of the window. Uncle Yiyen was one of the younger ones among his father's group of people. He joined an international organization in Lyon, France a few years ago. Because his family had always kept in touch with Officer Ma, he occasionally heard some rumors about Uncle Yiyen from him. If it was his father, he would be happy to see his former brother had achieved so much. If her father was the first person she looked up to as an idol, then Uncle Yiyen could probably be considered as her second idol or something. Luocio suddenly smiled. He was indeed at the age of longing. It was the third night. Her father was lying here. The hospital still had the spirit of saving lives. Luochi couldn't help but feel lucky. At least, no matter what happened, the first rescue was carried out. But the future expenses might be astronomical, and her mother was waiting for the operation. But Luochi didn't feel despair. After the teachers in the school found out about her situation, they began to raise funds throughout the school. The hospital also helped to contact charity organizations, and some related reports and appeals were made. There were still many good people. The little girl didn't know too much about the society, but at this moment she just realized that there were still people who were willing to help people in trouble. For example, this large envelope with words of encouragement on it contained a huge sum of money that Rahul would consider to be a huge sum of money. It suddenly appeared in his father's ward this morning, right next to his pillow. Who put it there? Luo Wan, don't give up. Your father will definitely get better. Looking at the words written on the big envelope again, he felt that these words were somewhat familiar. Luo Wu did not feel despair yet. Warmth flowed naturally. But at this moment, something seemed to flash by the window. Luo Yu thought he saw it wrong, but when he walked to the window, he found a new big envelope. It was still a huge sum of money to her. The little girl looked at it in a daze. But this was the 5th floor. How did this big envelope get here? Was it a god? The little girl couldn't help but think. There were too many heartless rich people. Mo Xiaofei didn't think there was anything wrong with taking the money that didn't belong to the rich and using it on the people in need. Love go little say Kuai won't make the same mistake again. Mo Xiaofei secretly warned himself. In order not to repeat the same tragedy, he became more cautious. He swore that he wouldn't let that evil place have any chance to take advantage of him again. Looking at the figure of the girl standing in a room on the 5th floor of the hospital, Mo Xiaofei clenched his fist. Not only did he have to better protect the social justice, but he also had to destroy that evil place. Yes, as long as that place was destroyed, he could atone for his sins and make up for his mistakes. Taking a deep breath, Mo Xiaofei continued to take those prisoners he caught and quietly came to the abandoned factory. He stirred the frame on the top of the factory, so that all the prisoners could sit down. Mo Xiaofei took out bread and water from his backpack and sprinkled them on the ground. He needed these people to repent here, but he didn't intend to let them die like this, until they came to their senses. Mo Xiaofei just stood there, watching this group of people start to rob each other for a little bit of food. Humans' deep-rooted bad habits won't disappear so easily. Mo Xiaofei felt that these people's prison term should at least be doubled. These people who were robbing food all fell to the ground as if they were knocked unconscious. Mo Xiaofei's pores seemed to have exploded in an instant. He turned around abruptly. In front of him, the boss of that place he met in the hospital was already standing quietly behind him. He found me? Mo Xiaofei gritted his teeth. The scattered steel, iron sticks, foreign nails and other discarded things floated up from the ground in an instant, neatly lining up on his left and right side. 39, 17 more than last time. Boss Luo looked at those prisoners who had fallen asleep. You didn't make a mistake this time, right? You've been here for a long time? Mo Xiaofei's vigilant expression became more and more intense. Meanwhile, the materials gathered around him began to increase and become denser. But at this moment, Mo Xiaofei only felt his chest was stuffy, and it became difficult for him to breathe. He felt dizzy and spat out a mouthful of blood. He knelt on the ground at once. Those steel and iron tools gathered around him fell to the ground at once. Mo Xiaofei coughed painfully. He covered his mouth, but blood overflowed from his fingers and couldn't be hidden at all. What did you do to me? Mo Xiaofei looked at Luoqiu in horror. Luoqiu said indifferently, You gained the opportunity to develop your brain at the cost of your soul. This directly gave you the power of psychokinesis. However, your body has no way to accommodate this power beyond its bearing range. To put it simply, as long as you don't stop using it, it will continue to grow stronger and at the same time, it will wear down your body faster. In order to express it more vividly, Luoqiu made an analogy. What will happen in the end if you keep inflating a balloon? Mo Xiaofei suddenly felt cold all over, as if he saw a balloon that had been inflated to the limit suddenly burst in front of his eyes. The balloon would burst in the end. And would he also die in the end? You did it on purpose? Mo Xiaofei struggled to stand up, looking at Luoqiu and staring at him fiercely. Luoqiu didn't intend to explain anything about this part. This deal was indeed completed by him, so the new boss of the club directly took the blame. Then, he would use the face of a villain. Luoqiu said indifferently, I came to see you, nothing else. I just want to remind you, after you die, your soul will belong to us. Mo Xiaofei rushed forward at once, but soon stopped. The opponent didn't do anything, but he understood that he felt fear. His legs lost strength because of fear. A few minutes ago, he even wanted to eradicate this evil place. Why was it so ridiculous? Boss Luo suddenly said, I have a question. The more you use your ability, the faster your body will collapse. And are you still willing to be a hero like before? Mo Xiaofei found that he couldn't answer this question properly. Yen PS1. Daily recommendation equals. Chapter 93. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Mo Xiaofei sat there in a daze for a long time, as if he had lost his soul. The boss of the club had left quietly. After a long while, Mo Xiaofei suddenly raised his head and subconsciously pointed at a steel pipe with his finger. The steel pipe directly left the ground and floated. Mo Xiaofei took a deep breath, then pointed at the second one, the third one. Well, it's all right. However, when he pointed at the fifth steel pipe, a wisp of blood gushed out from his nose. Clang! Clang! Several steel pipes fell to the ground, intertwining with each other. I have no power. I have no power. If I continue to use power, I will die. I will die. I will die. He hugged his head, curling up his body. Mo Xiaofei didn't know how he came back home. Mo Xiaofei's brain was almost blank. The threat of death at any time had caused a terrible wound that would never heal with just a light stroke in his heart. Xiaofei? Mo Hongqi heard the noise, pushing his wheelchair out of the studio. Seeing his son full of curses, he couldn't help frowning. What happened? Mo Xiaofei shook his head, saying instinctively, Dad, Nothing, I'll cook for you. He walked into the kitchen. During this period, especially in recent days, Mo Xiaofei didn't cook for his father, who couldn't move as usual after returning home. If he didn't want to die, he shouldn't use his power. Then, should he continue to live like before? Continue to live like before. Anyway, there was no threat from Brother Quan from the beginning. I will die, I will die, I will die, I will die. I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. After dinner, Mo Xiaofei stealthily put his father's firefighter uniform and gas mask back to their original places when his father returned to the workshop without saying anything. Just when he stuffed them into the cabinet, he suddenly heard Mo Hongqi's voice. Xiaofei, what are you doing? Mo Xiaofei didn't hold it firmly, and a set of clothes fell to the ground. Mo Xiaofei turned around in a flurry, only to see his father approaching with a wheelchair. I plan to take it out and wash it. It's been in there for too long. Mo Xiaofei didn't dare to look at his father. He lowered his head and picked up the clothes on the ground as a cover. Mo Hongqi smiled and reached out to take the fire uniform from Mo Xiaofei's hand. He laid it on his lap and fiddled with it. There was a trace of nostalgia in his eyes. He had worn this uniform recently and several times at that. Mo Hongqi did not intend to expose him. Suddenly, he looked at his son and said, "While your mother is not at home, help me put it on. I haven't worn it in a long time." Regardless of whether Mo Xiaofei would agree or not, Mo Hongqi took the initiative to put on his shirt. Seeing this, Mo Xiaofei had to help his father put on his pant. Finally, he helped his father stand up and came to the mirror. Mo Hongqi rubbed his belly that had gained weight for a long time. He smiled and said, "Yes, my figure is completely out of shape. It is indeed a little ugly to wear." Mo Xiaofei hurriedly said, "No, Dad, you look the best in it." Mo Hongqi smiled and didn't say anything. He just sat down, took off his clothes, and slowly folded them. Mo Xiaofei couldn't help but ask, "Dad, have you ever regretted it?" At that time, raging fire, thick smoke, screams, heat and despair, these memories from a long time ago were suddenly evoked. Mo Hongqi touched the collar of the firefighter uniform and carefully tidied it. He suddenly whispered, "It's not because you want to be a hero or anything. When you put on this uniform, you should do something. What is the meaning it gives you?" Mo Xiaofei was startled, but Mo Hongqi gently patted Mo Xiaofei's shoulder. Mo Xiaofei suddenly lowered his head. "That also requires the ability to do something. If you don't have the ability, what's the point?" Mo Hongqi was silent for a while and suddenly asked, "If you are in a fire, the conditions are very bad, and your physical strength has reached the limit, and you know that you may die if you stay for 10 more seconds. But you have a person who has fainted due to excessive inhalation. If you take him away, you have no way to safely evacuate. What will you do?" Mo Xiaofei looked at him blankly. Mo Hongqi shook his head and said, "If you insist, there is a great chance that you will lose 2 lives. But if you give up, no one will blame you. After all, you have tried your best. So, what will you choose? If you continue to use this ability, your body will collapse faster. Are you still willing to be a hero?" 2 different questions, but they seemed to be very compatible. They kept intertwining in Mo Xiaofei's mind and turned into a bottomless whirlpool. And at the bottom of the whirlpool was death. I don't know. The class meeting. About the fundraising activities organized to help Luo Sha's classmate. They didn't know the situation of Luo Sha's father. The class organized a group of students to visit him. Mo Xiaofei subconsciously wanted to sign up, but when he raised his hand halfway, he quietly put it down. No one noticed him. From now on, he couldn't use his ability, or his body would collapse. He didn't want to make his parents sad. The short hero dream had been shattered at this moment. If he needed to return to reality, he would be an ordinary person. A freshman in high school. Once again, he returned to his timid self. "I heard that several students in our school died a few days ago. It seems that they were killed by someone when they mingled with the underworld. So horrible. I heard that Lily's father also disappeared these days." "Shoo, don't say that. Although her father often beats people when he is drunk, he is still her father. He must be worried." "Alas. What happened recently? I always feel that there are a lot of bad things. Those people, those prisoners in the prison." Mo Xiaofei lowered his head. He went home in a daze yesterday, so he didn't pay attention to those guys. If he didn't pay attention to them, they might starve to death. Mo Xiaofei gave a start, his hands and feet were cold. when the heat brought about by psychokinesis was completely cooled down due to the threat of death, as if it was completely cooled by cold water, he suddenly woke up with a start. How many families had he created that had fallen into pain? Teacher, I have something to do. I need to ask for leave. In the class meeting, this thin and weak boy, who usually kept his head down and remained silent, suddenly stood up, and his voice was heard clearly by everyone. After saying that, he quickly ran out of the classroom, leaving nothing behind. Ghost scream. Renziling frowned, looking at Mouse Chong, who was known as Mouse Chong in the underworld. Basically, it was not only the police who could develop informant. As a senior reporter, she also needed such people. Yeah, 2 of my friends were short of money. They had no choice but to go to that place to get some scrap iron, steel, electric coil and so on to sell. In the end, they didn't get the things, but they were almost scared to death. Idiot, there are no ghosts in this world. Renziling shook her head. It must be your bad friends who did something wrong and scared themselves. Really? Mouse Chong said vividly. I heard from those 2 guys that they heard a tinkling sound and then saw dozens of figures, as if they were hanging in the air, wailing all the time. I heard that there were ghosts in that place before it was abandoned. It's so evil. Really? Renziling frowned. Dozens of people, tinkling sound, hanging? Wailing? Where on earth is that place? Renziling suddenly asked. After asking Mouse Chong, she gulped down the hot fresh milk in the cup and stood up quickly. Alas, madam, did you forget something? You stay here and watch. If you see that damn bodyguard go downstairs, I'll pay you double. Sub-editor Ren hurriedly left the ice room after saying that. Mouse Chong counted with his fingers and felt that double the information fee was not bad. He simply ordered a cold drink. It was so hot outside it was better to sit here. Wait, what if they don't come downstairs? Mouse Chong stared blankly at the red mini-clubman that was driving away. Old Ma, I just received the news that they might have found out where those missing people are. The female driver, who was used to speeding on the road, was also used to making illegal phone calls. In the hospital, Officer Ma, who was eating the waste and kidney tonic soup made by his wife, choked. Are you kidding? I said it's possible. I'll go and have a look. I'll inform you if there's any news. Wait. Don't act recklessly. Tell me the location. I'll ask my assistant to go and have a look. No, you come to the hospital to pick me up. Officer Ma frowned. If you really meet that guy, you can't deal with him. Can you get out of bed? Are you kidding me? When I was a soldier in Yunnan, I couldn't die even if I was shot by 5 or 6 bullets. Are you really okay? Renziling looked at Officer Ma, who was still wearing the hospital gown, and stopped the car. Officer Ma touched his mustache and suddenly looked at Renziling's car window with a surprised expression. Sub-editor Ren was stunned and turned her head subconsciously. Unexpectedly, at this moment, her hand was caught by someone. Officer Ma skillfully handcuffed Renziling's arm to the steering wheel. Sub-editor Ren was angry. I treat you as my family member, how dare you handcuff me? Officer Ma said with a bitter face. Be reasonable, sister-in-law, you'd better leave the rest to the police. You stay here. If I find anything, I'll call for backup. Ma howd. Let go of me. Or I'll tell your wife that you go to the health care center 10 times a month. Officer Ma pretended that he didn't hear him and pulled out his car key. But he couldn't help but retort, if I could go there 10 times a month, why would I need to drink the waste and kidney-nourishing soup? Don't court death. If that guy is really hiding inside, he's more dangerous than you think. Renziling was so angry that she didn't say a word. Officer Ma looked at her and had to get off the car. After getting off the car, Sub-editor Ren said in a low voice, the phone is turned on. Keep the communication, I can react if something happens. I'll deal with you later. Got it, sister-in-law. Officer Ma closed the car door and climbed over the iron fence slowly towards the factory building. Master, don't we need to care about Miss Ren? In one of the factory building floors, Yu Yi let go of the shutter and let it return to its original state. The club's boss also felt incredible that Rin Xiling and Uncle Ma could find this place. He wanted to give Uncle Ma a thumbs up, but he shook his head and said directly, "Don't care." "What about Officer Ma?" Yu Yi continued to ask. Luoqiu thought for a while and said, "I just wanted to see what state Mo Xiaofei is in today. I don't know what will happen next. Let's wait and see." He walked to the other side of the room, opened the door and quietly looked down at a place in the workshop. In the abandoned workshop, Mo Xiaofei was stirring the capstan to put down the people who had been hanging for a day and a night. The color on the young man's face couldn't be distinguished. However, at this moment, a fluttering butterfly rushed in out of nowhere. Luoqiu stretched out his hand and the butterfly finally stopped on his finger. Just when it stopped, the butterfly flew away as if it was frightened. Bathed in the faint brilliance, the butterfly gradually changed into a familiar figure. Little butterfly monster, Luo dance. Why was this butterfly monster here? Boss Luo showed a puzzled look. Unexpectedly, this little butterfly monster said in a panic, There's a horrible thing chasing me. Run! Luoqiu gave a start and kept silent. The door of the workshop was opened at the same time. Officer Ma howled. Let them go by themselves after they wake up. Mo Xiaofei thought. Although these people are weak, they should be able to leave by themselves if they are released. Since I plan to be an ordinary person again, I'll make a clean break with these absurd and weird things. Sorry. Mo Xiaofei silently looked at the people who were put down, but the ones he was apologizing to were the family and friends behind these people. Rumble, rumble. The door of the workshop sounded at this moment. Mo Xiaofei gave a start. His first reaction was, is the boss of that place coming again? Is he going to laugh at me again? Mo Xiaofei took a deep breath. Let it be. Thinking back, what I did during this period is indeed worth laughing at. I have always been so timid. Even if I have gained power, it hasn't changed. The teenager felt bitter in his heart. He looked through the gaps of those abandoned machines, but he didn't see the boss of the club, that police officer, another victim who was hurt because of his recklessness. Why is he here? How did he find this place? Is this also the arrangement of that place? Mo Xiaofei retreated to the side of those prisoners in horror. He tripped and fell to the ground. What should I do? Am I going to be discovered? Run. Mo Xiaofei was about to get up and leave this place. Instinctively, he wanted to fly up, but he stopped in an instant. The more you use your ability, the faster your body will collapse. I will die, I will die. Mo Xiaofei looked around in panic, then hurriedly rolled on the ground a few times to dirty his body. Finally, he wrapped the scattered chains on the ground around his body, and then pretended to be unconscious, lying on the ground. His heart was beating fast. *T. There's really someone here. Hey. You guys. Are you okay? Officer Ma walked quickly to the front of the people, squatting down to help a guy up. He stretched out his hand to check his pulse. Seeing that he was still alive, he was relieved. Wake up, wake up, wake up. He shook the people he could touch. Mo Xiaofei listened to the voice and footsteps getting closer to him in horror. The more flustered he was, the harder it was to keep calm. He accidentally touched the chains on his body and made a sound. Officer Ma rushed up instantly, slapping his cheeks hard. Mo Xiaofei had no choice but to open his eyes, saying in horror, Who are you? Finally, one of you is awake. Officer Ma took a deep breath. Don't panic, I'm a police officer. Although I didn't bring my ID, I'm really a police officer. So, I'll save you. Now tell me, who caught you and brought you to this place? Where is that person now? Mo Xiaofei shook his head, saying that he didn't know anything. Officer Ma was helpless. He knew that some victims couldn't calm down after being overly frightened, so he didn't ask too much. Instead, he took out the phone. Well, we found a lot of people. Let's not talk about it now. I'll ask the Bureau to send someone to rescue. That's good. Just treat them as victims and wait to be rescued by the police. As for the explanation, we'll talk about it later. Looking at the old police officer who was still in the hospital gown, Mo Xiaofei opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but found that he was in no position to speak. He lowered his head deeply. Bang! A black shadow suddenly rushed in from the glass window above. It was abnormally strong, abnormally ugly, and abnormally terrifying. Its whole body was covered with disgusting mucus, as if it had been burned or bitten by countless poisonous snakes and centipedes. The moment it appeared, it brought with it a burst of foul smell. The crystal skull seemed to grow naturally on its chest, but it also seemed to be inlaid, which added to the terrifying atmosphere. Seeing such a thing appear in broad daylight, Officer Ma's phone suddenly fell to the ground. He was very frightened. Damn it! What day is it today? July 14th? Officer Ma swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He had been working for more than 20 years and had seen all kinds of ferocious criminals, but he had never seen such a horrible monster. He stepped back in horror. The monster-like thing in front of him suddenly turned its head, and its ghost-like eyes looked directly at him, approaching step by step. Officer Ma picked up an iron bar from the ground in a panic. Feeling the evil and horror brought by this thing, he burst out with the courage to beat it down no matter what it was. The iron bar fiercely smashed down on the head of this ugly thing. If it was an ordinary person, his head would definitely be broken and bleeding, or even a direct fatal blow. However, it had no effect on this ugly thing. Instead, this ugly thing suddenly waved its arm and fiercely swept him away. The old injury had not healed, and this new injury was also serious. Officer Ma suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing himself being swept away by this thing, he really rejoiced that he had made a wise decision to lock up Ren Xiling just now. Officer Ma struggled to stand up. Looking at the panic-stricken student, he roared, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and leave. Do you want to die or not?" Mo Xiaofei quivered, turned around and fled in fear. After a few steps he stopped. "Officer, you should go too. This thing is a monster." "What did you call me?" "Police officer." "Then why are you still talking nonsense?" Officer Ma picked up another iron bar, gritting his teeth. "If I leave, what about these guys? Do I still know the word police? Don't get in my way. I've called people, they'll come soon. If you really want to help me, get out of here. Far. Go. Go away." Mo Xiaofei ran out of the workshop in horror. That monster, he couldn't deal with it. He would die, not worth it. Those people, not worth it, not worth it. If you continue to use this ability, your body will collapse even faster. Will die, will die, will die, will die, will die. Don't want to die, don't want to die, don't want to die, don't want to die. Do I still know the word police? Will die, will die, will die, will die. Ability, 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 ability. Coward, will die, coward. Don't want to die, coward. Dad, have you ever regretted? Will die, will die, will die. Do I still know the word police? If you continue to use this ability, your body will collapse even faster. Will die. Collapse, collapse, collapse. Instead, it's about what you should do after you put on this piece of clothing. What is the meaning it gives you? F***ck. I'm really old. And that stupid rule, no gun is allowed when there's no duty. F***ck, F***ck. In just over a minute, Ma Haud felt that it was much harder than doing 10 times of physical training. Spitting out another mouthful of blood, Ma Haud wanted to stand up. "I don't admit that I'm old." However, a sudden feeling of dizziness caused his eyelids to become heavy. His body went limp and he fell into a deep sleep. The fallen police officer didn't know that the ugly thing was walking toward him step by step. The ugly thing opened its bloody mouth, the green light in its eyes flashed, intending to bite the guy who suddenly fell down. Delicious food, it had no sense, nothing. It didn't know where it came from, nor did it have the ability to think about it. It just felt hungry. Fresh blood and meat were constantly tempting it. All of a sudden, its body was hit by something, and it was knocked away. Looking at the food that was far away from its sight, the food that should have been in its mouth, it suddenly went crazy. It pounced on the guy that it bounced away. But it was bounced away again. It didn't know how to think, but it felt that this guy was extremely fragile. It was indeed fragile. After bouncing away the monster twice, Mo Xiaofei was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. His whole body seemed to be protesting against his behavior. But he gritted his teeth, clenching his hands as tightly as possible, enduring the pain in his brain that felt like it would explode at any time, making all the steel and iron pipes around him float up. Mo Xiaofei waved his arms fiercely. Dozens, hundreds of large and small metals, like bullets, madly shot toward the ugly monster. Chi, hua, hua. The metals hit the ugly thing, just like hitting a wall. It was so hard that there was no way to penetrate it. The monster withstood the impact of a large number of metals, walking toward Mo Xiaofei step by step. Mo Xiaofei suddenly coughed out a mouthful of blood, with a splitting headache. Countless voices sounded in his mind, telling him not to care or he would die. Ah! The young man suddenly let out a furious roar. All the nearby metals crazily rushed toward the ugly monster just now. However, this time, these pieces of metal were no longer shooting at the monster. Instead, they came one after another, one piece after another, squeezing towards the monster and wrapping around it. The steel plates squeezed the monster's body, while the thick and long steel roots wrapped around the monster's limbs and neck. More and more. More and more. More and more. It was coming closer, 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 closer with great difficulty. Mo Xiaofei's eyes were bloodshot. Blood kept oozing out of his eyes and ears at the same time. He didn't know what was supporting him. He didn't think it was necessary to continue this. However, his body and his will were doing these irrational things. The monster was still approaching. The metal and steel that wrapped around its body had reached a terrifying level. It was like a giant magnet that attracted countless metals. Its neck was clearly twisted, and its hands were clearly twisted. Step by step. Finally, it stopped and opened its mouth, seemingly making some sort of sound. Boom! The huge metal mountain finally fell to the ground, and the monster couldn't move anymore. Mo Xiaofei knelt down on the ground. Blood flowed out from the 7 orifices on his face, as if he couldn't feel his heartbeat. His body was as weak as when he was beaten to the ground by Brother Quan. Like a flickering light in the wind, it seemed that he had reached the end. Mo Xiaofei suddenly smiled. In the blood, he revealed a smile. Ah, it seemed that I could understand your thoughts at that time, Dad. Have I become the hero in your heart? Yen PS1. Sorry for the late update, but this chapter of 7,000 words should be enough to make up for it. PS2. Tomorrow is the follow-up content. Chapter 94. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. It should be an instinctive fear. Luoqiu looked at the little butterfly monster clutching the corner of his clothes. Looking at Luoqiu's gaze, the little butterfly monster released the corner of his clothes at once, looking more uneasy. Coming down from the upper floor of the workshop, Luoqiu walked to Officer Ma's side, waving his hand to let him float to one side so that he could sit comfortably. Those piles of metal and steel scattered at once, finally revealing the ugly monster's body. Under the cover of numerous steel bars, the monster's body was actually pierced by many steel bars. Even if it couldn't move, or even if it was dead, it could still maintain a standing posture because of these steel bars piercing through its body. As an extra, wasn't it a little bit scary? Thinking of this, Boss Luo suddenly looked at the little butterfly monster. Don't worry, this is a prop I need temporarily, it has nothing to do with you. Luo Dance breathed a sigh of relief. then opened her eyes wide, looking around. What are you doing? Is it also to fulfill the customer's request? Customer, do you want to know? If you give us something, maybe we can tell you? Miss Servant Girl, who quietly appeared behind the little butterfly monster, now whispered in the ear of the little butterfly monster. Luo Dance was startled. Thinking that there was nothing valuable on her body, she quickly shook her head and retreated to one side. Luoqi walked to Emo Xiaofei's side at this time, followed by Yu Yi. She glanced at the teenager who closed his eyes with a smile on the ground, whispering, "Master, don't you intend to take away his soul?" Miss Servant Girl knew that if those steel bars didn't pierce through the monster quietly outside Emo Xiaofei's ability, Emo Xiaofei wouldn't be able to hold on. That kind of explosive ability would only make Emo Xiaofei's body explode directly, but now, he was not completely dead. Her new master was secretly controlling this scene that had once played out. Luoqi crouched down and took out a pack of tissues from his clothes. He then picked up a bottle of water that was scattered nearby. He wet the tissue and slowly wiped the blood on Emo Xiaofei's face. The courage that burst out in an instant defeated his own weakness and fear of death. I don't know how to define a hero, but at least it can't be separated from courage. The club boss, who had his own considerations, gently stroked the other side of Emo Xiaofei's face. But, is this courage a momentary burst or can it be sustained? In the future, he will face the same problems and choices. Facing the same situation again, will he explode with unparalleled courage like this time? Putting down the clean Emo Xiaofei gently, Luoqi stood up and looked at the servant girl with a smile. It's like a good wine that has been aged and brewed. If time can make the courage hidden in this soul mellow and emit a more charming fragrance. Are you willing to wait? Yu Yi is willing to accompany the master and keep waiting. Love go little say W. Chu. Officer Ma just felt that he seemed to have forgotten something, as if he was just distracted. When he opened his eyes, he only saw dozens of people lying on the ground. He looked at the mobile phone in his hand. Damn! When did the screen explode? Have I called someone? Looking at his colleagues who were carrying these people to the ambulance outside, and looking at his sister-in-law who was walking towards him as if she was going to settle accounts. Officer Ma suddenly felt very confused. This matter was really strange. 2 days later, Officer Ma still couldn't figure out the reason. They didn't know who caught these missing people. It seemed that the appearance of the murderer was very vague. Some said it was a strong man, some said they didn't see clearly, and some said it was a woman. What the hell was a woman? Under the different opinions, they couldn't even make a jigsaw of the criminal's appearance. A group of people in the police station frowned for 2 days. Only Officer Ma, who went out without permission, received strong greetings from the hospital and the leaders. He was almost imprisoned in the ward. Today, he could only read the newspaper out of boredom. Kiki. There was a knock on the door. A teenager with crutches stood in front of Officer Ma's door, with a hesitant look. Who are you? Officer Ma was stunned for a moment. His voice was muffled, but he soon remembered that this was one of the people he rescued from the factory that day. It seemed that because of the serious injury, he was directly hospitalized. It's you. Officer Ma frowned based on his impression. I remember your name is Fei. Xiaofei something? Emo Xiaofei. Emo Xiaofei took a deep breath, walking to Officer Ma's bedside with crutches. Officer? Do you feel better? Officer Ma smiled, talking about how things were in the past. Now, this little injury could be healed in minutes. So, what do you want from me? Emo Xiaofei plucked up his courage. Officer? I'm here to surrender. Surrender? Officer Ma was stunned. Emo Xiaofei took a deep breath. I'm the one who killed those people in the garage. I'm also the one who injured you. I'm also the one who caught so many people and locked them up. Officer Ma. Officer Ma opened his mouth, but frowned, stretching out his palm and opening it. Try punching my palm? Emo Xiaofei was taken aback. Hearing this, he punched at the palm. Use more strength, didn't you drink milk? Officer Ma suddenly said sarcastically. Mo Xiaofei gritted his teeth, punching the palm with all his strength, making a paw sound, but he still couldn't shake the palm. Officer Ma sneered. Look at you, you can't even kill a dog. You can kill people, but can you hurt me? Can you even catch dozens of people? Are you trying to fly to heaven? No, it's really me. Mo Xiaofei hurriedly said. Officer Ma frowned and interrupted, shouting in a deep voice. Boy, I tell you, I don't know what's wrong with you. Did your head get hit by a door when you were caught? But I can tell you honestly, those who were caught with you, if the murderer is really you, they will definitely testify against you. But those guys can't even tell who the murderer is. Also, if you want to admit the crime of hurting me, at least wait until you have six-pack abs, instead of the current pork ribs. Mo Xiaofei hurriedly said, but the garage is indeed built by me. Officer Ma said impatiently, then tell me, how did you kill them? Mo Xiaofei recalled for a while, ignoring the psychokinesis. He didn't know if that place would be unfavorable to the officer in front of him if he exposed the existence of that place. He didn't want to see any sad things happen again. I used my fists, my feet, to kick them, Officer Ma frowned. I don't know where you heard it from. Those dead people were indeed beaten before they died, and there were also traces of serious injuries and broken bones. But these weren't the fatal ones. What? Mo Xiaofei gave a start. How could it be? Officer Ma said in a deep voice. Bastard, get out! I have no obligation to explain these to you, and I don't have time to play with you. If you're not clear-headed, go and take a mirror. This is the hospital, it's very convenient. Get out, get out. In fact, Officer Ma, who could get out of bed directly, got off at this moment, pushing Mo Xiaofei out directly. Like driving away a salesman, he waved his hand and said, Get out. After closing the door, Officer Ma muttered, At least you have to tell me, how did those people's hearts disappear? According to the autopsy report of those dead people, the fatal cause was that their hearts were missing. What's wrong with this guy? Officer Ma frowned, unable to understand. What happened in these days? What the F***ck? Mo Xiaofei couldn't understand it either. Although he didn't die, he seemed to have activated some kind of premonition. If there was another outburst of the same intensity, he would definitely be dead. However, those arrested people couldn't explain it clearly. No one remembered the man in the firefighter uniform. Even the scene that happened in the factory, Officer Ma seemed to have completely forgotten it. He was the only one who remembered everything. Was it a dream? Not at all. Looking at the guy who suddenly appeared in the corridor with a fruit basket in his hand, Mo Xiaofei stopped subconsciously, turning around and wanting to escape. But he finally plucked up his courage, walking up with firm step. Did you do all this? Luo Qiu looked at the clock on the wall and said, It's better to keep some things hidden than to make them public. The factory is not only your personal business. Mo Xiaofei gritted his teeth. The car repair room, was it also you who hid it? Luo Qiu shook his head. That was another unexpected situation. You're a guest, so it's okay to tell you. Those people were not killed by you. You just seriously injured them at most. However, although they were not killed by you, they wouldn't have faced a worse situation if you didn't injure them. Therefore, you can be regarded as an accomplice. As for what you think, it's not within our service scope. Of course, if you feel guilty and go on the road of self-destruction, we should be happy to see that. After all, you just need to use your ability a few more times. Mo Xiaofei lowered his head. It was not a direct kill, but he was the one who caused it. Mo Xiaofei suddenly raised his head firmly, looking straight into Luo Qiu's eyes without avoiding. I won't use this demonic power again. Even if I use it, I will only use it to save people. Do you expect me to self-destruct because of guilt? No. I will feel guilty, I will feel crazy guilty, but I will never go on the road you expect. I won't be depressed. I will make up for the mistakes I have made and the sins I have committed. Luocio put on a wicked face. Oh? Really? Make up for your sins. Is this the reason why you want to survive and not consider those families who are in deep pain because of you? Emo Xiaofei took a deep breath and said, I won't say any reason. I know my sins can't be made up for in this life. But if I self-destruct, it will only increase more sadness. I can survive, at least I can do something. Even if I feel uneasy, even if it will be hard and sad, even if it will take my whole life. He looked at Luocio with an inexplicable brilliance flashing in his eyes. I will also bear these sins and move forward with reverence. Such a look was good. It was much better than the last time they met. He seemed to be able to smell a faint fragrance. What are you looking at? Subeditor Ren wiped the water stains on her hands while walking out of the toilet. Boss Luo was actually waiting outside the toilet. A child. Yen PS1. Don't ask me why Sir Ma couldn't recognize Emo Xiaofei's voice. Try talking with a gas mask. Oh my god. PS2. I originally planned to write it together with the previous chapter, but it was already 2:30 in the morning. So I had to give up and treat this chapter as the follow-up. As a result, I still couldn't catch up with yesterday's 11:59 p.m. update _ smiley face 3 angle _. But reasonably speaking, it should be better to read 2 chapters separately. PS3. I don't know if Emo Xiaofei's ending is good or not, or if some people are disgusted. Maybe he should die. But I hope that the one who dies is the arrogant and ignorant young man who only knows how to avoid problems and is a coward. We all of us have done something wrong more or less. We also hope to be forgiven. What we need is to move forward with this forgiveness in reverence. PS4. The club needs high-quality souls, the better. PS5. I want to protest. I'm really not a PDA maniac. PS6. Besides, I just found out that a book friend sent me a push packet. Sorry. I'm the kind of person who doesn't send red packets, so I basically don't look at red packets. It's an accident to see it today. So today I want to thank these big shots. Cute _shushu, let love section go with the wind, heavenly cloud Jing Long, full of lies, masked dancing sky, silent record, powers 67918, incomplete tree, chaotic heart, perfect gold carrot. PS7. Yes, I'm the PS7 who broke through the sky again. For the sake of updating late at night, do you have any recommendation tickets? Of course, the taste of the reward is better equals. Chapter 95. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. A few days ago, the police rescued a number of men and women from an abandoned factory in the suburbs. The criminals are still on the run. The police appeal to the public, if you see any suspicious person, please inform us as soon as possible. According to the report, some of the rescued men and women turned themselves in to the police. One of the men claimed that he had stolen property from many houses. It was the sound of a radio station on the car. Well, it seems that it's not a bad thing for these people to be arrested. Zhang Qingrui looked at Luocio, who was sitting in the passenger seat. The club's new boss was still wondering why he was here. He looked out of the window and murmured, yes. Why was he here in Zhang Qingrui's car on the road? That would start from this morning. In view of the lax management of the class with only 2 people, Boss Luo thought he must have been bewitched to choose such a professional boss. Today, he happily chose to turn left and step into the club. The phone rang. Luocio? You haven't come to school yet? Zhang Qingrui suddenly answered the phone. The last time he came to school should be the time when the singer was shooting the MV in school? It seemed like it had been a while, right? Boss Luo said after a moment of silence. What's the matter? Well, didn't the professor inform you? Boss Luo, who always checked his mobile phone, mainly to see if Subeditor Ren had any strange news, or if she suddenly came to his school, said, no. Oh, where are you? I'll come to pick you up. Zhang Qingrui said in an indisputable tone, "I have something to do." The eldest miss of Gu Yuzhai, who had said last time that she was going to enjoy her school life, was now driving her yellow Volkswagen Polo attentively, as if she was at peace with the world. Although she was much better than a certain female driver, Boss Luo still took the initiative to ask, "So, where are you going to send me? How does it feel to be suddenly pulled into a car? Let's talk about it later. There's no time to explain now. Get in the car first." That was the explanation he gave when he got on the bus. "It's not about where I'm sending you. It's about where we're going." Zhang Qingrui focused on the windshield. The yellow Volkswagen Polo was driving steadily on the same lane. "The professor told me to go to his house. Theoretically, they shouldn't have called me, right? As the class monitor of this class, I feel that I have an obligation to take care of your credits." Zhang Qingrui said calmly, "It's about time for you to show up in front of the professor. Aren't you afraid that he'll forget that you're his student? There were only 2 people in a class. If they could forget, it would be considered a talent, right? So, you actually don't know why the professor called you? In fact, he simply wanted to find someone to accompany him to boost his courage, or to pull someone down with him." Zhang Qingrui suddenly glanced at Luoqiu. Perhaps she had read something from his eyes. She knew what he was thinking. Therefore, such a stare was actually a glare. They didn't speak on the way. The paleontology professor, Luoqiu's supervisor, lived in a group of villas built in the early stage of the development of the new city. Small brown porcelain pieces were pasted on the outer wall of the 3-story villa-like building. It was a bit old. On one side of this European-style villa, green creepers grew all over the wall. However, after seeing such a villa, Boss Luo felt that the rumor that the professor just wanted to scam research funds should be discounted. This kind of ancient building was also in the rich area. The research funds must be burning every minute. They pressed the doorbell when they arrived. The paleontology supervisor came out to greet them. The professor was quite surprised to see another person besides Zhang Qingrui. Zhang Qingrui smiled at the professor's astonishment. "Professor, Luoqiu said that he also wanted to visit you." In order to avoid embarrassment, Luoqiu had to nod. Before coming here, he had planned to leave if there was nothing else. However, after coming here, Boss Luo became interested in this kind of villa mixed with Western style. The mottled creepers on the wall were rarely seen. "Since you're here, come in." The professor nodded without saying anything, leading the way for them. They walked through the front yard and into the villa. Luoqiu kept looking at the indoor environment, finally being led to a workroom-like room. The professor didn't say anything, directly explaining the purpose of asking Zhang Qingrui to come here. He pointed at a workbench in the middle of the room. "This is your homework during this period, and it will be counted into the final exam score." This was King embarrassing. Knowing that the professor didn't want to call his boss Luo, he just pretended not to hear the latter part of the professor's words, moving his eyes to the workbench. What did he see? Some large and small pieces of mud were scattered around. It was as if they had been part of a huge rock or an even bigger piece of mud in the beginning. But in the mud, he could vaguely see some gray matter. From the exposed tip of the iceberg, it seemed to be some bones. Zhang Qingrui walked around the workbench, suddenly frowning. "Professor, is this a fossil?" It was originally a complete piece, but an accident happened during the transportation. The professor said indifferently, "Your task is to clean up the remains of these fossils. Remember to be careful, don't break the things inside. After taking them out, you still need to restore them, so this is a long work." Hearing the word long work, Boss Luo didn't feel anything. Instead, he felt that he had finally learned something useful in this field. Putting aside those boring texts and theories, Luoqiu felt that it was very interesting to deal with these bone fragments here. He subconsciously reached out to touch one of the broken pieces of mud. The sunset and wind are sad, the sound is everywhere, not worrying to whom is, a faint, indistinct, elegiac voice suddenly sounded in Luacio's ears, flowing into his heart. He was slightly stunned, and when he was about to distinguish it carefully, he suddenly heard the sound of knocking on the door. "Dad, tea and snacks are ready. Let your students have a rest first." They came a long way. It was a graceful woman who appeared in front of the door. She didn't wear any makeup, but her eyes were moving. Luocio looked at the woman who appeared in front of him in astonishment. Not to mention her outstanding appearance, her identity was Qin Chu. Yusan Yang. Yin 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 Yin. Chapter 96. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by little? I'll provide you with wonderful novels to read. The High Jade Emperor's Heart Seal Sutra was a wonderful Taoist classic. Love go little say, W. Quancestor Lu once said, only cultivating one's fate and not one's nature is the first disease of cultivation. Only cultivating one's ancestral nature, and not one's alchemy, will make it difficult for another spirit to become a saint. This was the formula of cultivating one's fate. Of course, it wasn't a classic that could be seen in the market, but the inner part of the High Jade Emperor's Heart Seal Sutra. Taiyinzi later talked about some of its content. This was probably what Old Ghost had comprehended from the bits and pieces of information he had collected from his master back then. A lifetime was a reincarnation. Great sorrow and great joy, or a thin stream flowing, was the cultivation of the sincerity of this life. After a stage of cultivation was completed, it was like waking up from a golden millet dream, feeling the past, and then being reborn into the next stage of reincarnation. The body would become young and return to its youth. At the same time, it would forget everything and be reborn into another stage of life. But no matter how miraculous it was impossible to return to the embryo state. The professor was called Qin Fang, who was unmarried. Qin Chiu was actually an orphan adopted by him. Luocio was drinking the tea brewed by Yu Sanyang. Qin Chiu, who had become a painter in this life, while listening to Qin Fang's detailed requirements for the following work. As for Qin Chiu, she simply greeted him and went out. She should be going back to her studio. Luocio didn't intend to have any interaction with this strange monk. Naturally, he was more interested in the homework assigned by Qin Fang. He didn't know which part of the bone he touched at the beginning belonged to. But because he cared about it, he quietly touched the same place again. A voice like weeping and complaining, perhaps it wasn't a voice, but something like a thought. Luo Qi felt that he could no longer be classified as an ordinary person. So when he encountered such a wonderful thing, his heart was more or less moved, but his expression was still calm. The evening wind is sad, and the sad voice rises from everywhere. I don't know who I'm talking to. The intermittent voice finally formed a complete sentence. There seems to be only one sentence. Luocio felt for a moment and then touched another smaller piece of mud. This time, it was only half a sentence. The mountains and highlands are vast, and there is no time to see you again. Another half sentence. It is hard to describe the feelings between the two. No one knows the resentment in my heart. Luocio didn't know how to connect the words. He just wrote down what he heard on a piece of white paper. That's a pretty good regular script. At some point, Zhang Qingrui was standing beside Luocio. Zhang-sized strands of hair fell from one side, almost touching the table. Luocio was startled. Was he too focused on the thoughts contained in these fossils? I've been doing my homework. Zhang Qingrui smiled. Did you reveal your lazy nature when the professor wasn't around? Basically, he forgot that Zhang Qingrui was here. Luocio thought for a while. At the beginning, he seemed to have noticed something. But as he listened to more and more sounds, he was unconsciously immersed in these voices. As if he saw the Gobi, the desert, the setting sun and the lonely wild goose. Someone was holding a musical instrument and crying. Sorry. Luocio heaved a sigh. He was about to tidy up the things he casually wrote down. Considering that there were so many scattered bones, if different pieces of mud and bones had different sentences, he couldn't write them all down in a short time. Unexpectedly, eldest Miss Zhang picked up the piece of paper with the messy sentences written on it. After carefully reading a few sentences, she suddenly asked, "Why are you randomly writing Hu Jia 18 beats here?" It was indeed very strange. Facing these fossils, he was actually leisurely writing a few words of the Hu Jia's 18 beats. Hu Jia 18 beats? Luochio was stunned and asked curiously, "Are you sure?" Zhang Qingrui suddenly frowned. "It shouldn't be wrong. My grandmother had some attainments in ancient zither. When I was little, I could often hear her playing Hu Jia 18 beat. Out of curiosity, I recited its original text." Luochio nodded. He suddenly stood up and bent down towards a pile of mud and stones with the tools beside him. He looked just like a good student who was concentrating on his homework. Zhang Qingrui gave a start. The next second, Professor Qin Fang pushed the door open and walked in while reading some documents. Ms. Zhang had a bad feeling. This Luochio was really smart. She smiled and put down the paper in her hand. Then, she reached out and touched one of the small pieces of mud. Suddenly, she felt a slight electric shock, which made her fingertips shrink slightly. But when she tried to feel it again, there was no difference. It was probably just static electricity? Yushua, you're not young anymore. Isn't it time to consider getting married? Your dad and I are very worried about you. Guiyushua listened to his mother's call from his hometown with a little annoyance, casually replying. But his eyes never left his girlfriend for a moment. He found that he couldn't take his eyes off her anymore. It was a brand new image. He was no longer rustic, and his entire body began to emit a charming aura. His girlfriend, who was drawing on the drawing board by the window, turned her head and smiled at him. Guiyushua's annoyance seemed to be cleared away at once. He felt the heartbeat and satisfaction that he hadn't felt for a long time. His girlfriend was just as he wished. She even quit her job at the gas station and enrolled in a university's advanced course. Although she said it was hard to study again, she smiled sweetly and said it was very fulfilling. She had never felt so fulfilled before. His girlfriend, who didn't like to watch political news, started to watch such programs with him, saying she was interested in them. She started to discuss some issues with him. We were no longer monotonous here. We talked about not only trivial things. We talked about movies and the background of the magician and the monster on the island in Tempest. We listened to the string serenade in C major and danced around the house. When it was quiet at night, we hugged each other by the window, looking at the city lights. Oh, I ran out of paints. Guiyushua smiled. He couldn't restrain his love for his girlfriend. He quickly put on his coat and said, "It doesn't matter, I'll buy it for you right away. In that case, I'll cook and wait for you. Today, I want to try making red wine steak." Guiyushua nodded with a smile. "Let's go to the place where I bought painting tools last time." He suddenly had a strange idea. Was that place actually heaven? Just by using one of his kidneys, he was able to make his girlfriend so perfect. Guiyushua drove away from the apartment's underground garage in a good mood. After he went out, a black car parked by the road slowly followed him. Chapter 97. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. As the saying goes, sleepy in spring, sleepy in autumn, and sleepy in summer. This kind of habit seemed to be suitable for demons as well. At this moment, the little butterfly monster stretched herself and let out a comfortable end sound. This place was not bad. There was a lot of food suitable for her. There was a variety of food, and 1 change a day was enough for her to eat for a whole year. The only bad thing was that she needed to pay more attention during the day. Because there would be a lot of tourists here during the day. This was actually a botanical garden in the city. Ever since he was completely ignored by a certain terrifying boss and Miss Maid in the factory that day, the young monster, who was afraid that he would encounter something strange when he returned to the mountains, was once again homeless. The little butterfly monster turned into a butterfly, flying above the night sky of the city. After a long time, she smelled the fragrance of flowers and came to this place. Grandpa Tree Monster said that she should either stay away from human beings or integrate into human society. Although the young butterfly demon felt that it was very free in the mountains, she still wanted to see the outside world. But, how can I integrate into human society? The little butterfly monster looked at the leaves of the mulberry tree above her head in confusion. At this moment, Luo Dance was holding a small piece of fresh green and hard branch from the tree. She had been thinking about this problem for a whole day while sucking on the broken part of one end. The milky white sap was quickly sucked up. Luo Dance subconsciously licked her lips and swallowed some of the branch. She gently bit it and rolled it with the tip of her tongue. This kind of delicious taste will appear again. At this time, the little butterfly monster felt that her leg was rubbed by something, sending a strange feeling of numbness. She subconsciously lowered her head to look, only to see a green vine wriggling where she was sitting. Before she had time to react, the vine on the ground began to grow crazily and quickly rolled up to her legs and waist. Wow! The little butterfly monster screamed in panic. Her whole body had been tied up by these vines, and then she was hung upside down on the tree. Her hair hung down straight and her sight was completely inverted. Luo Dance tried to struggle a few times, but found that the more she struggled, the more she was tied up. Such a small monster, suddenly, a pair of dark blue denim pants appeared in his line of sight. They were straight, slim, and slender. Luo Dance had no time to think about it as her body had been straightened by those vines. Valiant short hair, a pair of brown large-framed sunglasses, a simple t-shirt with blue and white stripes, and an indifferent but highly pure demonic aura that frightened Luo Dance. Sister, who are you?" Luo Dance murmured. This kind of demonic aura that was terrifyingly pure made her instinctively fearful. Her body stiffened, and she was afraid that even without the entangling vines, she would not be able to move. "I don't know her age, but at least she looks young, demon." He gently pressed down the brown sunglasses on his face and suddenly walked in front of the little butterfly demon. He reached out and gently pinched her chin, casually moving it left and right. "So it's a little butterfly. Well, golden-banded swallowtail butterfly. It turns out that it hasn't gone extinct?" The little butterfly monster's eyes shrank at once. The woman's next sentence was, "It should be good to make a specimen." Luo Dance trembled all of a sudden. At the very least, the young butterfly monster still knew what the specimen was. Luo Dance seemed to see butterflies being put on the chopping board and sealed in the glass frame forever. Her face turned pale with fright. Unexpectedly, this woman with a thin and horrible demonic aura suddenly stretched out her hand and flicked her forehead, chuckling, "I lied to you." The tight vines loosened at once, and the little butterfly monster sat on the ground softly. "My name is Long Shirua, and you?" "Dance, Luo Dance." "Sir, this is the paint you want." Qin Chuyu knew that she had a good memory since she was a child. It was hard to forget people she had seen once. Maybe it was a gift from God. She could even reach the level of photographic memory. But she didn't like to show off, so she didn't tell anyone about her talent. She seemed to be only interested in painting in her life. Guayushua. If she remembered correctly, this guest's name was Guayushua. "Ah, thank you." Guayushua was casually looking at the works in the studio while waiting. At this moment, he stretched out his hand with a smile and received the paint Qin Chuyu had packed. Qin Chuyu suddenly said with a smile, "If the paint is completely dried, it will be very difficult to clean." Guayushua gave a start. Qin Chuyu pointed at his clothes and wrist. "Oh, when did it stick?" Guayushua gave a start, then smiled. "Thanks for reminding me." He still remembered his girlfriend at home, so he didn't intend to say anything more, even if this young female boss of the studio was a woman of high quality. My girlfriend is starting to become perfect, and I only love her, right? By the way, Sir's girlfriend seems to be very interested in painting. She has used up the paint last time in just a few days. Yes, Guiyushua said proudly, she should have some talent, right? Next time, I'll bring her works to you and let you comment on them. Qin Chuyu nodded. Although it was better to get professional guidance for painting than to fumble by oneself, it was indeed a bit annoying to say such words. Like promoting, quickly pay the tuition fee and attend the class, and so on. After Guiyusha left with the stuff, a man came in after a while and approached Qin Chuyu. Miss, may I ask what he bought just now? You are? Oh. Well, I'm his colleague. I happened to pass by and saw it, so I want to ask. Although Qin Chuyu felt strange in her heart, she didn't say anything, but simply said, just some paint, nothing. The man kept silent for a while, then suddenly muttered, paint? I remember he doesn't know how to paint. He seems to have bought it for his girlfriend? Qin Chuyu stopped the topic here. Sir, if you're the friend of that gentleman just now, you should ask him more clearly. The man nodded, thoughtfully leaving the studio. There was a naked corpse lying on the table, which seemed to have been well dissected. Last time it was in the laboratory of a pharmaceutical factory, this time it was in the autopsy room. Boss Luo wasn't a timid person, but when he saw Miss Maid wearing white rubber gloves and holding a scalpel stained with some liquid, he still felt disgusted. It should be an ancient method of refining corpse in Nanyang. Yu Yi put the scalpel on the plate. The corpse lying on the table was actually the one they got from the factory a few days ago. Since then, the monster's corpse showed some disgusting signs of decay. But these pieces of rotten flesh didn't damage the monster's real origin. Instead, after the decay, it revealed its original appearance. It was the psychic who should have been arrested and sent to prison earlier. How did this guy become like this? Luoqiu frowned. This time, Miss Maid, who also put on the medical examiner's uniform without permission, said helplessly, "It's just a small matter, and I didn't want to make you worry, but it seems that there's still a mistake." Luoqiu gave a start. Yu Yi told him about the psychic, but omitted the matter of Black Soul number 18. Ghost King Tongtian intended to avenge his apprentice, so he brought about his own death. Yu Yi has already killed him, but I didn't expect that he refined the corpse elsewhere. Refining this kind of corpse seems to require a special kind of insect. It needs the heart of a living person to grow. I'm afraid that when the Ghost King Tongtian was looking for food, he happened to find those guys lying in the garage. That's why he made the first move. It's enough for Uncle Ma's group to be busy. Luoqiu shook his head. This would probably become an unsolved case in the end. Luoqiu looked at the crystal skull taken out from the psychic's corpse. So it's this thing that Yang Taizi said to exchange for the second part of the cultivation method last time. It seemed that he was destined to meet Bones today? During the day, he was still dealing with another set of bones in Professor Qin Fang's home, but who made this crystal skull? Reaching out to hold this crystal skull, Luoqiu couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when he touched another set of bones during the day. But he soon thought of something. If there was a skull, would there be other parts? A whole set of crystal bones? At this moment, pulling his thoughts away from this crystal skull, Luoqiu glanced at Yu Yi, who was standing quietly beside him. Looking at this silent and slightly lowered head, as if she had done something wrong and was waiting for her master to punish her, Luoqiu had to say softly, "Pack up and go back? Tonight? Well, vegetarian food is okay?" "Master," Luoqiu smiled, "you solved some troubles for me in a place I didn't know. If you still feel that you didn't do a good job and want to blame me, you probably won't be able to live well in the future, right?" 8:30 p.m. Luoqiu had to stop eating while eating the vegetarian dishes that Miss Maid carefully cooked. Miss Maid, who seemed to be happier today, hurriedly took a napkin and wiped the traces around Boss Luo's mouth considerately. Although it felt really good. But if he continued indulging in this way, would he completely degenerate into a handicapped person? Boss Luo once again welcomed Guiyushua as a guest. Well, the third time. Chapter 98. Genius 1 Second Remember Love Go/Small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. So, you suspect that your girlfriend is having an affair behind your back, right? Luocio was looking at Guiyushua, saying what he wanted to hear. No, no, no. I won't suspect her. Guiyushua denied himself, he couldn't be sure. It's just that the temptation of the outside world is too great. She has become so outstanding again. The reason was, the customer found that a suspicious man was often found downstairs. Sometimes he would even wander downstairs in the middle of the night and wouldn't leave. He said that his girlfriend's eyes would occasionally turn to the direction of the strange man, as if she vaguely knew that someone was watching. Luochu said indifferently, if you just want to know the answer, asking the other party should be the fastest choice. Guiyushua shook his head. Today, that guy followed me again. He has been following me since I left home to buy things. He is still downstairs. Luochu looked at Guiyushua's expression, saying softly, Customer, may I ask what you want this time? Guiyushua lowered his head, pondering. After a moment, he took a deep breath. She has become outstanding. She will only be more outstanding in the future. Even if one is driven away, there will be a second one, and a third one. That's a correct idea. Luochu nodded. Guiyushua suddenly said, the key is still herself. His eyes flashed with some illusory, fanatical, and even distorted things. The existence of the club and the hidden wonderful atmosphere in the lobby that induced people's desires were crazily magnified at this moment. Gritting his teeth, Guiyushua said seriously, I want her to only love me and never change her mind. Even if she hasn't changed her mind now, it's hard to say in the future. So I need a guarantee. Are you sure? Luochu suddenly said, Customer, it's much more difficult to control people's hearts than a desire to improve, especially love is the most sincere feeling. What you need to maintain is not a simple matter. Listening to such words, Guiyushua, who came here for the third time, naturally understood what was going to happen next. As a member of the financial world, he was well aware of such tricks. From the beginning, they lured customers with small profits or losses. This time, Guiyushua's lips trembled slightly, and he gritted his teeth. If one of my eyes isn't enough, I can add another ear. Looking at the indifferent look of the boss in front of him, Guiyushu gritted his teeth again and said, 1 year of life, 2 years of life, 5 years of life. The club's new boss suddenly knocked on the table and said softly, No, 1 month is enough. So little? Guiyushua was stunned. He stared at the man in the clown mask in disbelief. Was there a devil's grin or an angel's grin behind this? Luochu didn't answer this question. He just waved his arm, and an ancient scroll unfurled in front of Guiyushua. Guest, please. It was true. Guiyushua, who had completed 2 transactions, instantly dispelled his doubts when the scroll was unfurled. Taking a deep breath, Guiyushua placed his palm on the parchment. The moment he did so, he felt a sense of comfort. From now on, she belongs to me only. Oh, guest, since she only loves you, Luochu suddenly said, why don't you bring her out and let others see how excellent she is? If she's not recognized by others, she'll be too lonely. Guiyushua was stunned, and then he revealed a happy expression. This is a good idea. It's really a good idea. She wondered how those rich ladies and ladies who used to look down on her would feel ashamed of themselves after seeing such an excellent girl. After Guiyushu left, Yu Yi suddenly said, Master, the dishes are cold, let me make them again. Luochu shook his head, took off his mask, and sat back at the table saying, That's good. After dinner, Luochu teleported to the library of the university alone. Through text search, he quietly took out several documents from the library, and a video and audio material of The Return of Wenji. Touching her stomach. She really couldn't. After eating the chicken leg rice of this freezer for nearly a week, Sub-editor Ren felt that both her tongue and stomach were protesting. She really missed the millet porridge made by Luaccio with fulling pickled mustard. Boss, the bill. Another day's work was useless. Sub-editor Ren didn't go downstairs for so many days. She really admired the patience of this bodyguard. Unexpectedly, when she just turned the corner and went to a nearby parking lot, Sub-editor Ren suddenly felt that her arm was caught by something, and then she was suddenly pulled into a dark alley. She instinctively wanted to resist. In fact, at the moment when she was suddenly pulled in, Sub-editor Ren had already resisted and kicked fiercely. Sub-editor Ren, who had won the gold medal of the Taekwondo competition in the university, didn't give up these skills these years. With a sound of "pa," the black figure in front of her stepped back 2 steps. Obviously, he was caught off guard, but obviously, he was able to defend himself. Sister-in-law is still so cruel. Suddenly, a bitter voice came from the dark. Yi Yen. Ren Xiling looked at the man who appeared in front of her with surprise. Wearing a black windbreaker, he looked like a walker in the dark. Obviously, he was a lot older than her, but in these years, he seemed to have grown in reverse. Obviously, he was almost 40 years old, but looked like 28 or 29 years old. Why are you here? Ren Xiling frowned. Suddenly, Yi Yen asked, Sister-in-law, have you been spying on the people in one of the suites in that building recently? Ren Xiling gave a start. How do you know? You come with me. Yi Yen smiled. Then, he muttered to himself and looked left and right. His heart was filled with doubts. At that moment, he seemed to have sensed something dangerous, but it disappeared all of a sudden. This was a room near the road in a unit of a nearby building. The windows in the room were covered with curtains. However, the furnishings in the room surprised Ren Xiling. High-power binoculars, eavesdroppers, notebooks. In addition, there were 7 or 8 used lunchboxes piled up. Ren Xiling pinched her nose in an instant. Yi Yen shrugged. Don't pay too much attention to the environment. Men are more or less like this. Ren Xiling immediately retorted, F***ck. Who said that? Didn't you see my Luaccio tidy things up neatly and clean? I have no interest in arguing with you, a person who spoils little Luo. Yi Yen shook his head, pulling Ren Xiling to the binoculars. Have a look. Ren Xiling subconsciously looked towards the binoculars. She saw the end of the focal point. The bodyguard, King Kong. At this time, King Kong was also close to a binoculars. From the lens and angle, it seemed to be, did you see? That guy has been monitoring you all the time. Yi Yen said indifferently, like you can't wait until the end of time. F***ck. Sub-editor Ren gritted her teeth, stamping her feet, saying fiercely, I'm going to send him a box of sanitary pads. Yi Yen. This policeman from Lyon, France, suddenly pinched his eyebrows. He didn't want to hear it. Yen PS1. Please vote, please give me a tip. Chapter 99. Genius 1 second. Remember love go/small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. So, you suspect that your girlfriend is having an affair behind your back, right? Luaccio was looking at Guiyushua, saying what he wanted to hear. No. I won't suspect her. Guiyushua denied himself. He couldn't be sure. It's just that the temptation of the outside world is too great. She has become so outstanding again. The reason was, the customer found that a suspicious man was often found downstairs. Sometimes he would even wander downstairs in the middle of the night and wouldn't leave. He said that his girlfriend's eyes would occasionally turn to the direction of the strange man, as if she vaguely knew that someone was watching. Luaccio said indifferently, if you just want to know the answer, asking the other party should be the fastest choice. Guiyushua shook his head. Today, that guy followed me again. He has been following me since I left home to buy things. He is still downstairs. Luaccio looked at Guiyushua's expression, saying softly, Customer, may I ask what you want this time? Guiyushua lowered his head, pondering. After a moment, he took a deep breath. She has become outstanding. She will only be more outstanding in the future. Even if one is driven away, there will be a second one, and a third one. That's a correct idea. Luoqiu nodded. Guiyushua suddenly said, "The key is still herself." His eyes flashed with some illusory, fanatical, and even distorted things. The existence of the club and the hidden wonderful atmosphere in the lobby that induced people's desires were crazily magnified at this moment. Gritting his teeth, Guiyushua said seriously, I want her to only love me and never change her mind. Even if she hasn't changed her mind now, it's hard to say in the future. So I need a guarantee." "Are you sure?" Luoqiu suddenly said, "Customer, it's much more difficult to control people's hearts than a desire to improve, especially love is the most sincere feeling. What you need to maintain is not a simple matter." Listening to such words, Guiyushua, who came here for the third time, naturally understood what was going to happen next. As a member of the financial world, he was well aware of such tricks. From the beginning, they lured customers with small profits or losses. This time, Guiyushua's lips trembled slightly, and he gritted his teeth. "If one of my eyes isn't enough, I can add on the other ear." Looking at the indifferent look of the boss in front of him, Guiyushu gritted his teeth again and said, 1 year of life, 2 years of life, 5 years of life. The club's new boss suddenly knocked on the table and said softly, "No, 1 month is enough." "So little?" Guiyushua was stunned. He stared at the man in the clown mask in disbelief. Was there a devil's grin or an angel's grin behind this? Luoqiu didn't answer this question. He just waved his arm, and an ancient scroll unfurled in front of Guiyushua. "Guest, please." It was true. Guiyushua, who had completed 2 transactions, instantly dispelled his doubts when the scroll was unfurled. Taking a deep breath, Guiyushua placed his palm on the parchment. The moment he did so, he felt a sense of comfort. "From now on, she only belongs to me. By the way, guest, since she only loves you," Luoqiu suddenly said, "why don't you bring her out and let others see how excellent she is? If she's not recognized by others, she'll be too lonely." Guiyushua was stunned, and then he revealed a happy expression. "This is a good idea. It's really a good idea." She wondered how those rich ladies and ladies who used to look down on her would feel ashamed of themselves after seeing such an excellent girl. After Guiyushu left, Yu Yi suddenly said, "Master, the dishes are cold, let me cook them again." Luoqiu shook his head, took off the mask, and sat back at the table saying, "That's good." After dinner, Luoqiu teleported to the library of the university alone. Through text search, he quietly took out several documents from the library, and a video and audio material of The Return of Wenji. Touching her stomach. She really couldn't. After eating the chicken leg rice of this freezer for nearly a week, Subeditor Ren felt that both her tongue and stomach were protesting. She really missed the millet porridge made by Luoqiu with fulling pickled mustard. Boss, the bill. Another day of useless work. Subeditor Ren admired the patience of this Mr. Bodyguard, who didn't go downstairs for so many days. Unexpectedly, when she just turned the corner and went to a nearby parking lot, Subeditor Ren suddenly felt that her arm was caught by something, and then she was suddenly pulled into a dark alley. She instinctively wanted to resist. In fact, at the moment when she was suddenly pulled in, Subeditor Ren had already resisted and kicked out fiercely. Subeditor Ren, who had won the gold medal of the Taekwondo competition in the university, had not given up these skills these years. With a sound of "pa," the black figure in front of her fiercely stepped back 2 steps. Obviously, he was also caught off guard, but obviously, he defended himself. "Sister-in-law, you are still so cruel." Suddenly, a wry voice came from the dark shadow. "Yi Yen." Ren Xiling looked at the man who appeared in front of her in surprise, wearing a black windbreaker. He looked like a walker in the dark. Obviously, he was a lot older than her, but in these years, he seemed to have grown in reverse. Obviously, he was almost 40 years old, but he looked like 28 or 29 years old. Why are you here? Ren Xiling frowned. At this moment, Yi Yan suddenly said, Sister-in-law, are you monitoring the people in a suite in that building recently? Ren Xiling gave a start. How do you know? You come with me. Yi Yan smiled. Then, he muttered to himself and looked left and right. His heart was filled with doubts. In that instant, he felt as if he had sensed something dangerous, but it disappeared all of a sudden. This was a room near the road in a unit of a nearby building. The windows in the room were covered with curtains. However, the furnishings in the room made Ren Xiling very surprised. High-power binoculars, eavesdroppers, notebooks. In addition, there were 7 or 8 used lunchboxes piled up. Ren Xiling instantly pinched her nose. Yi Yan shrugged. Don't be too picky about the environment. Men are almost like this. Ren Xiling immediately retorted. Damn? Who said that? Didn't you see my Luocho tidy things up neatly and clean? I have no interest in arguing with you, a person who spoils little Luo. Yi Yan shook his head, pulling Ren Xiling to the binoculars. Have a look. Ren Xiling subconsciously looked towards the binoculars. She saw the end of the focal point. The bodyguard, King Kong. At this time, King Kong was also close to a binoculars. From the direction of the lens and angle, it seemed to be. Did you see? That guy has been monitoring you. Yi Yan said indifferently, like you can't wait until the end of time. F***ck. Subeditor Rin gritted her teeth, stamping her feet, saying fiercely, I'll send him a box of sanitary pads. Yi Yan. This policeman from Lyon, France, suddenly pinched his eyebrows. He didn't want to hear it. Yen PS1. Please vote for me, please give me a tip PS2. 9 p.m. Second update. Chapter 100. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Although I don't know why you've been paying attention to this person recently, I hope you'd better not get involved. Yi Yan suddenly said seriously. Looking at the equipment in the darkroom again, Ren Xiling frowned with the special tactile sense of a reporter. Yi Yan, tell me honestly, the reason why you came back this time is actually related to King Kong and the vegetative Lingung, and even Heaven's Shadow Entertainment, right? Do you really want to know? Yi Yan suddenly asked. Ren Xiling nodded. Yi Yan said again, I can tell you something. But you have to promise me that you won't follow up on this matter anymore. I know you always like to take verbal promises as nonsense, but if you get involved this time, you may bring danger to the people around you. I think you know how to control yourself. What do you mean? Ren Xiling's face couldn't help but become more dignified. Yi Yan sighed, sitting down and saying, I can't tell you the details. In the past 1 or 2 years, we've been tracking down a very large criminal group. According to the current information, this group has been involved in organ trafficking and drug trade. This was not a joke. Ren Xiling calmly analyzed Yi Yan's words. According to our information, this group may have made some deals with Heaven's Shadow Entertainment. Yi Yan said with consideration, we estimate that they use Heaven's Shadow Entertainment's artists to carry out illegal organ trafficking, and even drug trafficking when they go out to walk on the stage or carry out business activities. Ren Xiling gave a start, her face suddenly changed. If she was afraid that she finally understood the source of her friend Tu Jiaya's drug addiction. It's a pity that the boss of Heaven's Shadow Entertainment had such an accident when we found this out, Yi Yan sighed and said, I'm afraid this lead is broken, but it's not completely broken. King Kong. Yi Yan nodded. Yes, on the surface, this guy is an employee of a security company hired by Heaven's Shadow Entertainment. But we found records of his plastic surgery. Before the surgery, he was actually a freelance mercenary active in the Middle East. Love go little say ku. At this point, Yi Yan looked at Ren Xiling seriously and said, he obviously knows that you're following him, but he hasn't done anything yet. It's very likely that it's because you're not a threat to him. But obviously, he didn't want to get into trouble. But once this kind of person's bottom line is crossed, think about it, a person who once leaped from the Middle East, what will happen when he is furious? Renziling was silent. Yi Yan said again, so, put away your curiosity this time. Our group of brothers swore in front of Brother Luo's grave that we would never let little Luo Chiu get hurt in this lifetime, right? Okay. Renziling nodded. I won't interfere in this matter anymore. But there is one thing I hope you can help me pay attention to. Say it. Yi Yan didn't mind Renziling's request at this time. He knew that this woman had made up her mind. He and his group of brothers all understood that this woman valued the young man who just started her life more than anything else. I have a friend, Tu Jia. She disappeared recently. Hu Qin, Suona, Yueqin and Haidi, lingering with grief. Beijing accent. It's time for me to be infinitely attached to Qianglu. When she just returned home, Sub-editor Ren was shocked to find herself in a wonderful environment, which was like noise to her. She knew that her good son liked music, and also knew that Luoqiu also had a period of curiosity when he was young and played with musical instruments. The problem was, why did he start to turn to the field of traditional culture? Was her understanding of Luoqiu outdated? Generation gap? Was there a generation gap? She walked quickly to the sofa. At this moment, the boss of a club had obviously fallen asleep. Renziling glanced at the video box on the coffee table with the words, Return of Wenji written on it and frowned. She stretched out her hand and poked Luoqiu's face gently. Looking at the slight dent on his face, Sub-editor Ren suddenly felt so happy, as if the fatigue of the day had disappeared. How could he be so cute? What are you doing? Unexpectedly, Boss Luo suddenly opened his eyes. Renziling simply sat down and said arrogantly, What's wrong? Is there a problem with me poking my son's face? Finding that there was no problem in theory, Boss Luo heaved a sigh of relief. He pinched his eyebrows and watched the figure walking on the TV screen. Sure enough, no matter how interested he was defeated in this silent rhythm. Just as he was reading, he was so tired that he fell asleep. Luoqiu turned off the TV, looking at the time. You're early tonight. Renziling said with a smile, because I thought that you would be bored, lonely, and intolerable at home alone. I thought that you would use a lot of tissue paper and so on. F***ck. Why are you looking at me like I'm an idiot? You look like an idiot. Renziling's mother suddenly made a gesture of knocking on his head, but she was reluctant to knock. Then she touched her stomach. Baby, I'm hungry. There are instant noodles on the cabinet. I want to eat millet porridge. It's best if it's sticky and thick. There are instant noodles on the cabinet. Yes, with pickled mustard. There are instant noodles on the cabinet. Well, a dish of fried noodles is also good. Can I add some shredded ham to make fried noodles with 3 shredded noodles? Boss Luo felt there was no need to continue the conversation. He sighed, getting up and walking to the kitchen. It seemed to be like this all these years. It's either me or you. Most of the time, it was Luoqiu who did the cooking. By the way, are you free this weekend? Are you still tutoring that little girl? In the evening? Boss Luo, who was eating millet, gave a start. He almost forgot that there was a non-existent student, so he answered casually, Sometimes. What's up? Family day, family day. Renziling ran into the kitchen, touching Luoqiu's head. I'll take you to the zoo on Sunday, okay? You don't like it? How about the botanical garden? The amusement park is also okay. So Boss Luo put the calamity in Sub-editor Ren's hands. What's up? There are instant noodles on the cabinet. Sir, you're here again. Qinqiu looked at this man who should have been here the day before yesterday. Did you use up the paint again? No. Guiyushua shook his head and carefully took out a roll of paper. It's like this. My girlfriend and I both like this painting very much, so we want to frame it. Can I trouble you? No problem. Qinqiu smiled. But it will take 1 or 2 days. It doesn't matter, I'll come back in 2 days. Guiyushu nodded, then looked at the watch on his wrist. I'm in a hurry, there's a banquet in the evening and I need to choose the dress, so I can't talk more. After seeing Guiyushu leave, Qin returned to the table and sat down. She slowly unrolled the rolled drawing paper, but opened her mouth. She had never seen such a painting. Being infatuated with painting and being able to feel the emotions and attitude that the painter wanted to express were probably the qualities that a qualified painter should have. I've never seen such a painting. She couldn't help staring at it blankly. Everlasting Heart Hotel, a hotel under the Everlasting Heart Group. Due to the large capital investment, everything here was equipped according to the highest level. Are you nervous? In the open air parking outside the banquet hall, Guiyushu looked at his girlfriend who was sitting in the passenger seat, asking gently. He felt the passionate love emitted from his girlfriend's eyes all the time, feeling it was the most wonderful thing in the world. His girlfriend shook her head slightly, revealing a faint smile. As if she was the most brilliant jewel in the world, Guiyushu couldn't help kissing her on the lips. Aren't you afraid of being late? His girlfriend chuckled. Of course not. Guiyushu said proudly. You'll be the most dazzling princess tonight. Everyone in the banquet hall should be waiting for your arrival. You're such a sweet talker. I'm serious. Guiyushu hurriedly opened the door, then trotted to the other side of the car, opening the door and directly hugging his girlfriend from the driver's seat. What are you doing? His girlfriend asked coyly and shyly. Since you're a princess, of course you should enter as a princess. Guiyushu smiled faintly. Listen to me, you'll be the center of attention. Feeling the stronger love in his girlfriend's eyes, feeling the touch of her gently leaning on his chest, Guiyushu gazed at her, walking towards the entrance of the banquet hall. This man is so strange. He actually walked over with a woman in his arms. At the signing place, some guests, some hostesses and the waiters were all stunned. How could he enter the banquet hall like this? Guiyushu? Suddenly, a woman who was acting as the company's etiquette for today's banquet recognized him. She frowned and looked at the banquet, then quickly walked up to Guiyushu. Guiyushu, what are you doing here? Attending the banquet. This. His former colleague frowned, looking at the woman in his arms. Guiyushu, I know you must be dissatisfied with the company's decision to lay you off a few months ago. But you'd better not make trouble here, right? You're so strange. Really? Even the chairman is here? Good, I have to go in quickly. Guiyushu walked 2 steps forward as if he didn't hear her. His former colleague was stunned. This guy seems a bit abnormal. She quickly reached out and grabbed Guiyushu's arm. Guiyushu, you're not invited here, actually, you can't go in. Oh right, how could I forget to sign in? Wait for me here. Guiyushu put his girlfriend down. I'll come over after signing. He walked straight to the place where the lot was drawn. Before the female colleague could stop him, the woman who was put down suddenly walked towards her. She subconsciously caught it. But at this moment, she saw the woman's body was twisted abnormally. The female colleague quickly supported her, then suddenly screamed in horror. Pale, rotten, this is actually a corpse. Yen PS1. Seems to be a few minutes late. PS2. But I still want to recommend, collect, and reward.